He said, man, you got to be the luckiest guy in the world, Earl. That man been looking for you. I said, who is that? He said, that a man named Bum Phillips from Houston, Orange. You know where that cowboy hat? I said, yeah, I think I know. He said, well, that's who you going to play for. They looking for you. And Bum called me and welcomed me into the Houston Oil family, and then we visited, and everything was history to the day he died a few years ago.
It's wild to think that Hall of Famer Earl Campbell didn't even find out till hours later that he was the first overall pick at the Houston Oilers. Well, barring something unforeseen this evening, it won't be a running back at the number one spot. The conversation will likely be about the quarterback position. And while that's a common theme every year in the NFL draft, this year's crop of quarterbacks is much different than the 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round of the 2024 draft. NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah outlines 2 of the quarterbacks at the top of tonight's draft.
There's 2 quarterbacks that separated from the group, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. And to simplify it, I would say you can go floor or ceiling. And to me, Shedeur has a little bit higher floor. He's more polished. You kind of know what you're buying with him. Someone who's going to be, efficient and accurate. Ball placement's really good. These are good qualities to have, by the way. But, arm strength-wise, not top-shelf arm strength. Not a ton of twitch, which sounds crazy to say, considering his dad, but just not a ton of twitch and movement, there. And then, he's got some habit things. He can clean up drifting and taking some sacks over the last couple years. You'd like to see that clean up. But I feel like you get him with the right pieces and protect him with an offensive line, he's going to operate efficiently. Cam Ward, to me, is ceiling and is upside. He has a lot of twitch in his body, a lot of twitch in his arm. The ball jumps out of his hand. When he decides to move, I'm not talking about as like a dynamic runner, but you get a free rusher, he's got enough twitch to be able to get away from him and avoid him and then make a play. So those are kind of more of those high-end traits now. He's loose. He plays really loose. It's gotten better throughout his career, but there's still moments where he's rolling right and you see the ball thrown across his body and you're going to go, what are you doing? You can't do that. But he's been able to dig himself out a lot of those holes because, of the talent that he has. So the way I changed looking at this thing over the last 5 or 6 years is in the AFC, there are so many cyborg quarterbacks in the AFC that you have to navigate around to get where you want to go, that if you go with the floor, 3 years from now, you're going to go, you know what, he's a good player, but he's not good enough to get us past these guys, the Josh Allens, the Mahomes, the Burrows, the Lamar Jacksons, the Herberts. I mean, that's the tip of the iceberg there. So I don't want to make a selection that I'm going to have to replace 3 or 4 years from now. I'd rather chase the ceiling, and if I miss, guess what? I'm going to go chase the ceiling one more time.
We welcome in the head coach of Titans Radio, Dave McGinnis. Coach Mack, what stands out to you about the evolution of the draft in your 4 decades of experience?
Well, we didn't have a crowd like this. This is outstanding. This is my 39th straight draft, and I couldn't be anywhere that I wanted to be more than right here with these Titans fans. This is so great. First draft I was involved with 39 years ago, there were 12 rounds. We had 12 rounds, and we were in our offices. There was no television, and you just constantly started picking. I've seen the evolution of this draft change a lot. And once they started moving the draft, I think we saw the culmination of that when we had the draft here in Nashville. I think Nashville didn't set the bar for what it was to move the draft. They were the bar. And now everybody's been chasing that bar since we've been doing it. But it has become now, it is a true media phenomenon. Once the season stops, then the season of the draft starts. And that's where we are. Brett Bryan and I have spent months putting this draft board together, getting ready for this. I get an adrenaline pump for the draft, just like I did when I was coaching, and just like I do when I'm broadcasting the game. This is a great moment for us right now.
Ramon Foster's also with us tonight. Ramon, speaking of adrenaline, these guys don't exactly live in a world where they don't find out that they've been drafted. What are draftees going through right now as they are awaiting hours, minutes for this to start?
First and foremost, listen to the great Earl Campbell give that story. He went to class, took a test, was insane to me.
Can you imagine having an algebra test today?
No, absolutely not. But what's going through their mind is a lot of emotions, man. Just excitement, pride is going into it also because you want to see your name be called. And if you're one of those top guys, there's a lot of uncertainty because a lot of different moves can go on before you make those selections. And then here's the other part, too. Guys are naturally fans of teams. What if a team you grew up hating? You instantly have to fall in love with that team, too. So you become like water. You're fluid in your response to what happens on draft day. And whatever happens, happens. I just saw a tweet from Shedeur Sanders, and he put out, I'm built for whatever today may bring. And that's essentially what it is. You just want your name called in that opportunity, and it's just full of excitement, man, that can change your life forever.
The Oilers had the #1 overall pick a few years earlier than Earl Campbell, 1973 as a matter of fact. Anybody have a guess as to who that was? I'll give you a hint. He was eventually an Oakland Raider, two-time Super Bowl champion, but was more famous for his appearances as an actor in television shows like The Dukes of Hazzard, Miami Vice, MASH, and even in movies. In fact, he's more famously known as the one and only John Matuszak, a defensive lineman from the University of Tampa who would later take on the character of Sloth from the 1985 hit The Goonies. He was the first overall pick in 1973 of the Oilers. Pretty wild.
That is wild. Mac, you've been a part of teams that selected someone this high. Describe the pressure on a #1 overall draft pick.
Well, first of all, if you're talking from the players' aspect of it, they've worked to get to this. There's a lot that goes into it. Now, as far as a franchise and as far as an evaluator, there's no pressure if you're prepared. There's a lot of work that goes on in deciding who these guys are going to be. So there's the pressure now at this moment where we're sitting, waiting for the pick. It's not pressure at the moment now, Amy, but it's anticipation. I mean, we can all feel the anticipation build, but it's like going into a ball game. If you feel like that you've done a thorough job of preparing, then that's not the pressure. That's not the pressure. The pressure comes when you're not prepared, or the pressure comes when you're uncertain. If you're certain with who the pick is and you're well prepared, then it's the anticipation that you can't wait to let loose when it happens.
Ramon, it seems like you carry that #1 tag with you your whole career, and you've mentioned in your time with the Pittsburgh Steelers how you played with the former #1 overall pick and quarterback Michael Vick. So what's the locker room like for the top picks teammates?
Man, when they walk into the room, there's expectation. For a guy like Vic, you were in awe of him because he'd already walked that pathway and his legend was already there. But it doesn't ever leave him because those guys can always make plays. I feel like the NFL and everything they do is the most scrutinized because right now in the pre-draft, here's so many storylines, the way the combine is broadcast, and even in post-football, like the retirement. The Hall of Fame is by far one of the hardest to get into. So think about the guys that have been selected #1 overall and how much weight that carries to be one of those greats that you potentially get one of those gold jackets, man. So it never leaves you, and the expectation of what you're supposed to deliver is always there, too. It's beautiful, man. Like, again, watching him in high school, I thought to myself, like, I want to go get his autograph. Like, immediately that's what you want.
#7.
Yeah, man.
That's
so
right.
if you get one of those quarterbacks specifically, it really takes you to another level, and expectation does too, but it just puts you in a very exclusive club.
Don't go anywhere, everybody. We have a special guest on Countdown to the Draft. We'll just say he's a voice you will hear frequently on Titans Radio this fall. Stay tuned.
Continuing coverage of the 2025 NFL Draft is presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. More picks happen next. This is Titans Radio.
Your kids about the dangers of vaping can be hard. Getting them to listen to hot gossip
presented by Farm Bureau Health Plan. When it comes to your health coverage game plan, count on the seasoned pros at Farm Bureau Health Plans. They've been defending Tennesseans for nearly 80 years. Happy draft day to all that celebrate. I'm Rhett Bryan with Amy Wells, Ramon Foster, our head coach Dave McGinnis. We're live at the Titans draft party, West Club Nissan Stadium, where in under 1 hour from now, the Titans will select the #1 overall pick. And after GM Mike Borgonzi confirmed as much in their pre-draft press conference earlier this week, this pick will be the new face of the franchise. And with that in mind, we officially welcome the new voice of the franchise, Taylor Zarzour, to Titans Radio.
Hey.
Yay.
Taylor, it's time to fess up, buddy. Was the #1 overall pick, was that the attraction to the Titans?
It was all of you is what it was. Tighten up. I am thrilled to be here, and the passion that you see in this room that Tennessee Titans have for not only this pick but the future. There is an enthusiasm to watch all of this being built, and I have no doubt in the next few years we're going to see a championship-level football team in this stadium and in the new stadium, and to be a tiny part of that and stand next or sit next, if you give me a chair, sit next to you guys and watch all of that happen, man, it really is the chance of a lifetime.
You got to earn that chair.
A little hazing, I like it.
Whoa!
Rookie.
Calling Titans games on Sundays is obviously a really big stage, but I don't think it's too big for you. You guys may have heard Taylor Zarzour on the SEC Network, his PGA coverage on SiriusXM Radio, or maybe you heard him a couple weeks ago at a little event called The Masters. I've got to ask you, what was it like interviewing Rory McIlroy after he earned that green jacket?
It was one of the more powerful things I've ever done, Amy, is watching somebody have the biggest moment of their professional life at that event and the emotion that came with it. It was a bucket-filling thing for me, and I would put it near the top of the list. The only other thing that I'm thinking of that I really would say is on that same line is our television crew on SEC Network called the 7 Overtime LSU Texas A&M game in College Station that changed the rules of college football and its overtime process. That was a really neat night as well. But if we could call an AFC championship game in here and or in the new stadium that would then get us to a certain game in February, then that will trump all.
Wow.
Yes.
That absolutely would. Look, you and I have talked, and I love the fact that you've done the master. That's big-time stuff, but you also know ball. And you've called ball games. What are you most looking forward to calling Titan games? We've talked a lot. You've talked with us about how you feel about coming in here and doing this now as part of your illustrious career. What are you looking forward to?
You hitting me on the arm and saying, look at that dude that the Titans have on the field down there. That's what I'm looking forward to. Seeing the talent that the Titans are going to put on the field, the way they're making this team, Mike and Chad and Coach Callahan and everyone that's in charge of this, picking these players and watching a franchise go from the first pick in the draft to being a perennial contender, I'm really excited about that. But I would say there's one thing I'm more excited about. Being an extension of this community is what I'm most excited about. I am trying my best calling SEC football or calling golf to be objective. I'm not going to be objective on Sunday.
There it is.
Calling Tennessee Titans. This is my team, and I will be representing all of us when I call the Tennessee Titans in the community and during that broadcast on Sunday or Thursday or Black Friday or Saturday or Monday or whenever they play. I will be so excited to represent this community. I think that's the thing that's most appealing.
Man, Taylor, welcome, man. I must say, it was good meeting you earlier today for sure. But this weekend is huge. The NFL puts on a crazy broadcast. It's a show. Everybody watches it like it's a game because it is. And the Titans this weekend are adding a lot to their roster this weekend. Is this where your job starts today with the ingestion of everything that's coming to you, #1 overall pick, and everybody else they will pick up this weekend?
Absolutely. Getting to know those people that they're going to pick up this weekend and understanding what it's like to be drafted today, one of the biggest, if not the biggest moments of your life, to the time you take the field in training camp and then in August and then on the field in the NFL. And it's not just tonight and tomorrow and Saturday. What if there is a Ramon Foster that the Titans pick up on Sunday or Monday that turns into a 2-decade performer in the National Football League, that plays with a massive chip on their shoulder, that makes this roster?
Come on, Tyler. You're ready.
I'm going to get to know those people just as well as I'm going to get to know the guy that's going to be drafted in an hour or so, or the guy that gets drafted tomorrow night. Those stories are just as fascinating to all of us as are the top stories in the draft.
Taylor Zarzour with us here on Titans Radio, the new voice of the franchise. And with that thought in mind, Taylor, you called a bunch of SEC games on the SEC network and talking about prep and those kinds of things, because this is the architecture of the league, this what happens over this next 72 hours. But with that in mind, how much does that help you prep for what's going to happen on Sundays in this building and on the road, knowing that you've prepped for their games in college?
I appreciate you mentioning that, Rhett, because there are a lot of guys, and it's every year. Coach Mack will tell you, it's every year. The Southeastern Conference wins the draft. Every year, they put the most players in the NFL draft. And so getting to do an SEC football game on Saturday gives me a lot of information about a lot of guys that will play for the Tennessee Titans. I did Calvin Ridley's games when he was in college, and there's countless other Titans whose games I called. I actually called a K-State game when Tyler Lockett, a brand new Tennessee Titan, played for them back in the day. So there are a number of guys that I get to see on Saturday, and then the next year or two I get to see them on Sunday, and I think that'll be helpful. And as you know, Rhett, almost all Titans fans are SEC fans.
Oh, yeah.
And they're golfers. So there's a lot of
they're going to get a healthy dose of Taylor Zarzour.
There's a lot of carryover between all the things I got going on, so it'll be fun.
Well, Taylor, we so appreciate you taking some time to hang out with us. We know you've got a lot to do tonight. You're a very busy man, and you've got a lot of people to talk to. Everybody give a hand for Taylor Zarzour, our new play-by-play man for your Tennessee Titans.
Tighten up.
When we continue, head coach Brian Callahan talks Titans draft on Countdown to the Draft, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans.
In the heart of every community, caring comes naturally. At Farm Bureau Health Plans, we're not just
here on Titans Radio. I am joined
all the scenarios that could come up, all of the things that we've worked through over the last handful of months now. Going to add some good players to our football team.
What's the process when it comes to going through what each of those scenarios could be and kind of prioritizing them as this is plan A, this is plan B, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I think that's what the fun part of it is. Once the evaluations are complete and your board is stacked and everybody's aligned where you think that you want them for the process, then you start working through everything else. You sort of work the board vertically, which is by position, and then, kind of horizontally, which is, should say this, rounds go vertically, positions go horizontally. And so now you start figuring, all right, if we're at our third round pick, here's the players in that bucket that we really feel great about. And now it all changes come draft night. It's sort of like a game in that regard, where you might have all the best laid plans and you think you have everything pegged exactly how it's going to look, and then things change. And so the ability to draft, the draft room pivot is just like a game day pivot. But that's you make sure you have all those contingencies in place and you've talked through every possible scenario that could come up. And sometimes you often do like worst case scenarios. All right, here's the 4 players we like in this particular spot. None of them are there. Now what do we do? I think that's good practice. And I think Mike and Dave and Reggie and those guys have really done a nice job of setting the board and having contingencies for all the possibilities.
Now, this is not your first draft as a head coach, but this is a new team, as you mentioned, working with Mike Borgonzi and his crew. How has that all come together? You guys had to get to know each other, go through evaluations in a really quick amount of time. How good do you feel about your ability to be on the same page as you get to draft night?
I feel great about it. I think the process has been fun. I mean, really, Mike got hired and we went right into the All-Star game, so we spent some time traveling there for a little bit, which, as anybody who's married knows, that travel with people before you marry them and you figure out a lot about how people operate under stress and plans changing and things like that. So that was a good start. And I just think on top of it, Mike's a fantastic person and he's easy to get along with and easy to talk to. And I've known Dave Ziegler for a long time. I've been with Reggie before. These are some guys I do have some familiarity with. And the process has been fantastic. And I got a lot of trust in what they've done and how we've gone about our side with the coaching staff and where we've integrated with this front office staff. And I'm really excited about what the results can be.
We are down to minutes, basically, until the Titans are on the clock for that first pick. When did you guys decide on your plan of action? When did you agree as a group that this is what we're hoping round 1 looks like?
I would say, in the last 2 weeks or so is usually when you're finalizing all your plans and all the evaluations are complete and everything has been talked through. It was a really thorough process from start to finish. I think Mike preached that from the get-go, and I think he followed through with it. Everything that we did had a method, had a purpose. We didn't rush anything. We went through all the steps that we needed to go through for the first round selection, certainly, and then really for the rest of the draft, too. So I feel really good about where we're at. I think the timeline was exactly what Mike said it was going to be, and I think people should feel good about that when they hear it. That it was disciplined. The approach was thorough. We did all of our homework on every prospect, all different possibilities, scenarios, all the things that come up. I think we're very prepared for it all, and ultimately, we've got our decision in hand, and I think we're really excited about it.
When you're evaluating players, not just for the first round, but for all of the rounds of the draft, what were some of the qualities you were looking for in a player that is a Tennessee Titan?
I think you look for all of the things that you want in a person first. You want people that, they're good people. They treat people right. They're respected amongst their teammates. A lot of times, what are their leadership qualities? Were they captains? Which is harder to find nowadays with the amount of transfers. These guys may not have as much sustainability in one place, but you're looking for those guys that have the leadership qualities you're looking for. I think when you're trying to keep building a team, you're trying to add as many high-level character people as you can. I think my perspective is you always assume that they can play football.
Yeah.
That's sort of the prerequisite. Like, you can play the position you're being drafted for. But I think all the rest of it is where we do our homework. Is how intelligent are they? How tough are they? How do they connect with their teammates? What kind of presence do they have as a person? What are we bringing into our building on a daily basis? And again, the football tape is what it is, and everybody can watch tape. Our job is to determine what kind of person we're bringing in on top of it.
Brian Callahan, thank you so much for the time.
Thanks for having me.
You watched them in college. Now
NFL Draft rolls on from the watch party here at Nissan Stadium, and it's presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. When it's game day for your health coverage, trust Farm Bureau Health Plans to draw up the winning play. They've been backing Tennesseans for nearly 80 years. Tonight, the first pick in the draft belongs to the Tennessee Titans, and GM Mike Borgonzi confirmed as much in his press availability on Tuesday at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. And they are keeping the pick, and they will make the selection in top of the hour, 30 minutes or so. Will that be a quarterback? And which will it be? ESPN draft analyst Jordan Reed is bullish on Cameron Ward from Miami.
I'm different from the consensus about Cam Ward. I love Cam Ward. I'm a big Cam Ward fan just because when you look at all the quarterbacks in the NFL right now, and I'm not comparing him to these guys, just talking about from a playmaking standpoint outside of structure, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, they have the ability to make an offensive coordinator right even when they call the wrong play. And I believe Cam Ward has that type of ability on the next level. And everybody talks about his selective aggression. I think that can be a good thing for him. Now, does he need a hard position coach? Absolutely. He's going to have to reel it in sometimes. But what's going to have to happen with Cam is that you're going to have to know how to straddle the line of letting him be him, but also telling him, like, hey, we got to reel it in a little bit and just take the first option on your progression and don't hunt for the deep play down the field. So whoever coaches Cam, whether it's Brian Callahan, Brian Daboll, or whoever, they're going to have to understand how to straddle the line of letting him be him, but also reining him in a little bit too, just because he can get a little bit careless with the ball. But for every 2 or 3 mistakes that he makes in games, he's going to make you stand in your seat 9 or 10 plays too. He's going to have that wow factor.
Jordan Reed points out here just how different Colorado's Shedeur Sanders is from Cameron Ward, especially when discussing a couple of the top prospects at that position.
But with Shedeur Sanders, the polar opposite stylistically, he's more so of your polished pocket passer whose game really evolves around what we've seen in years past, you know, from guys like Tom Brady and Joe Burrow, guys that win with their mind from the pocket with the ball placement, being able to understand the difference between accuracy and ball placement. And what I mean by that is accuracy, you just put the ball in the right spot where your wide receivers can catch the ball, but ball placement, you're throwing it away from defense to where they have no chance of being able to catch it. And you know, with Shedeur Sanders, I believe he has really good ball placement, really good accuracy, but also he has that poise about himself. We're talking about somebody that's really been in the spotlight his entire life. I mean, he's the son of Deion Sanders, arguably the greatest athlete that's ever lived. So whether he goes 1, 2, wherever, he's used to being in the spotlight. So that's what I love about Shedeur, just being in the spotlight, the accuracy, the ball placement, and just the awareness that he plays with.
So how would Cameron Ward fit in Brian Callahan's offense? Jordan Reed says what Ward brings to the table is ready-made.
The ability to play with so much poise, and then just the relaxed demeanor that he plays with as well, going into a situation of where being able to build a program around him, that's something that wouldn't be foreign to him at all either. Now it's just a matter of how well does he fit in Callahan's system. But I've always had the belief of if you're a great coach, you fit your scheme around your quarterback as opposed to force fitting a quarterback into your scheme. So I think that's a decision that they have to make.
So the decision that general manager Mike Borgonzi and the rest of the Titans brass needs to make today is simple. And I think ESPN's Jordan Reed says it best. To QB or not to QB? That is the question.
I think this comes down to one question and one question only for Mike Borgonzi. In year one, is he comfortable attaching his tenure to one of these quarterbacks? If he's not comfortable doing that, then you look to trade back. If you don't feel good about Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, try to trade back. If not, take one of Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. If you feel good about one of these quarterbacks and attaching them to your tenure in year one, go ahead and select one of them, just because at the end of the day, nothing matters in a roster rebuild until you get quarterback solidified. You can have a loaded roster everywhere else, but if you do not have a quarterback, you do not give yourself a chance, especially in the AFC, where predominantly most of the top quarterbacks in the NFL are. So if you don't have that quarterback solidified, you're playing with one hand tied behind your back.
The Titans signed veteran backups Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle this offseason, and with Will Levis still in the mix, Reed says having a sturdy backup quarterback is a necessary part of the equation if you're selecting a rookie QB.
I've always said if you're drafting a quarterback, you want an experienced veteran behind him, just because there's nothing like that shared experience. And for example, Bryce Young with Andy Dalton is a great example. Marcus Mariota with Jaden Daniels. You want to have that type of experienced veteran behind them, just because those guys have been through the ringer already 10-plus years. And those little nuggets and those little tidbits, they can help from study habits to execution, understand how to go out and apply things at practice. And then sometimes some guys just get overwhelmed. Like the best thing that happened to Bryce Young last year was him sitting out a few games, just because he was able to recalibrate, collect himself, and understand and now see, like, where were my flaws? How can I go out and how can I be better and execute it? They put him back out there. He like a completely different player. As opposed to Jaden Daniels and C.J. Stroud, things click for them from day one. So it really just depends on the guy.
Countdown to the Draft on Titans radio presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans keeps moving, and we hear from Titans general manager Mike Borgonzi in 2 minutes.
In the heart of every community, caring comes naturally. At Farm Bureau Health Plans, we're not just a health plan provider. We're your neighbors, your friends, and your partners in health. With us, you are more than just a member. You are a valued part of our Farm Bureau family. Together, we care. Together, we grow. Together, we thrive. Farm Bureau Health Plans, where your health is our commitment. Plan on us. Visit us at fbhp.com/together. That's fbhp.com/together.
When it comes to instant things, you either like them or you don't. Like instant coffee, instant messaging, or instant potatoes.
Oh, these are awful. This tastes like paper mache.
But there's one instant thing we all
Are you enjoying the fact that while you are not new to the draft, you are new to the GM position, and so around the league, nobody really knows your tendencies, your preferences. You have some time where there's a little bit of an unknown. Does that work in your favor?
I think it does, yeah. There's a little bit of an unknown, but it's just like trying to study a coach that has been somewhere else, and then all of a sudden they're there. So I think probably people are looking at me and trying to study what maybe we did in Kansas City, all those years. But there's certainly probably a little bit of an unknown, and certainly we look across the league and, what other GMs have done over the past, and it kind of gives us a little bit of a tip maybe where they're going to go. So that's a good thing.
Along those same lines of other teams and what they're going to do and the influence that it may have on you, you have the ability to just evaluate and not have to worry about what anyone is doing because you have the first pick in the draft. Did that give you some freedom to really find the best person for the Tennessee Titans and not have to worry about who may or may not be left on the board?
Oh, it certainly does, yeah, because, for years we were drafting at the back of year one in Kansas City, and there was so many different scenarios you'd have to go through, and if this player is going to be there. But for us, really, yeah, it did give us an advantage. We could just kind of narrow down who is the best player for the Tennessee Titans right now this year.
What does that look like? What are some of the traits that you were looking for in a player who's worthy of not only being a Titan, but being in that number one spot?
Yeah, well, obviously, when you get picked that high, it's the physical ability, the traits we've talked about, no matter what position it is, and they have to be high-level traits. And when you're picking that, the other part of it is trying to figure out the personal character and football character piece of it, too. So all those have to kind of align into what makes the number one pick. And so that's what we've been going through, not only watching a ton of tape, but also, going through the process of interviews and talking to different sources and to really try to figure out the player as well.
Along with evaluating all of these players, you've also been putting together a staff and getting all of them on the same page. How easy or difficult was it to get everybody working almost with the same mind when it comes to evaluating these people and understanding what it is that you're looking for as a collective group? How challenging was that?
Yeah, I've been through it before in the past. We've had a regime change in Kansas City actually a couple times, so it is challenging, but you really, it's just different systems of evaluating players. But, as I talked about before, going through the meetings actually is the best learning time for them as the film is up and you're talking through players and exactly what we're looking for on the team and how we grade certain positions. So I think, the benefit of having those long meetings that we have at 3 weeks before the combine is it's a great teaching moment, really, to kind of implement the new process.
After free agency, where you added a lot of different players at a lot of different positions, it feels as though you have a lot of freedom now. You don't necessarily have to address one specific need. You have a lot of different things to work with. How much freedom has that given you as you're getting ready, not only for night one of the draft, but for the entirety of this process?
Yeah, it has. We have a lot of needs right now, but, just going through the board and really, figuring out who we're taking at one first, and then really to go through the board and seeing what's the next best player that we can take at a certain position, and really staying true to the board as well. But, yeah, that certainly is giving us an advantage here. Having the number one pick, there are some advantages to it.
We're just minutes away from the first pick. How much are you obviously thinking about what's going to happen in the next minutes and hours, but also what's happening in the next day and the upcoming rounds?
Yeah, you always have to have a focus on what's coming up. But, I think once you get through day one, each day that you go through, there's more clarity on the board. So after night one, we'll kind of get together and kind of reset the board a little bit in terms of players that maybe have been taken that we've had in later rounds. So there's a process you get through each day, and then at the end of the day, kind of reassess your board at that point. So that's where our focus is going to be.
You said that you're hoping this draft will be a tone setter for the 2025 season. What tone are you hoping to set?
Yeah, bringing in guys that can create a culture here. I've seen that before, and they're high football character guys that are good teammates, that are good workers, and they really set the standard really for the team. And once you start building upon those drafts, if you have those type of drafts, then you start to create a special culture.
Can you believe that this is here, that it is actually draft weekend finally, maybe?
It's finally here, yeah. No, it's really exciting. I mean, it's an exciting time for the entire city of Nashville, for our organization, and I'm glad it's here. And it's going to be a lot of fun.
Are you going to rest when all of this is over?
I do have a weekend planned with the wife and kids here in May, so that'll be some of my rest time.
Awesome. Mike Bergonzi, a lot of work to be done before we get there. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Your favorite Titans were picked on a
Draft on Titans Radio, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Tonight, the Titans start this event with their very first pick in the NFL Draft. But there are some position groups that are deep this weekend. Coach Dave McGinnis, what's a group that stands out to you?
Well, this group, as you say, there's some interior defensive linemen in this group that stick out. On our draft board here that we put together the last 4 months, interior defensive lineman, Mason Graham from Michigan. This will be a first-round pick, probably a top 6 pick. Derek Harmon from Oregon, another guy that is going in the first round tonight. Kenneth Grant from Michigan. Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. All you SEC fans have watched Walter Nolan play. Tyleik Williams from Ohio State, Amy. Alfred Collins from Texas. T.J. Sanders from South Carolina. Shamar Turner from Texas A&M. Or Darius Alexander from Toledo. Those are just a few of the names. I've got a lot more names on this board that we will go through as the draft continues for the next 3 days. But this interior defensive line group is a pretty stacked group.
Ramon Foster, the 11-year offensive lineman. I ask you about this year's offensive tackle class and how many of them, like Titans guard Peter Skoronski, who may have played tackle in college, that may be asked to move inside. What do you make of the inconsistencies and all the arm lengths through testing and the differences of opinion on where guys play in this group?
Right, it's one of those situations, man, where you've been knocked for what you were simply born with. You know, that's one of the worst things about this situation. These guys, as far as their playmaking ability, for them to play football, they're good at it. But the NFL has certain requirements where they think you need to have to play certain positions. Running backs shouldn't be running a 4-8, right? Offensive linemen shouldn't be running like seven flats. There's a lot of that stuff that goes into that, Red. And the other side of it is this, too, is the reality of the different level of ball that you're playing, too. In college, you can get away with that because you may be a 21, 22-year-old playing against an 18 and 19-year-old. So you're allowed to get away with it because you're a little bit older. In the NFL level, guys take advantage of your deficiencies. And that's why coaches have to make those hard decisions, moving the tackle to guard or vice versa.
The running backs are interesting to me. Mac, I want to talk to you about them. How many do you think could be selected tonight and why?
Well, tonight I think there will be two, could possibly be three. But you're right, Amy. The running back group is another group that in the belly of this draft, which means the middle of the draft, is very strong. But tonight, to your question, Ashton Jeanty from Boise State. This guy will be picked fairly early. And then Omarion Hampton from North Carolina. He started out in our first pod. I think he's going to stay there. But then right behind him is Caleb Johnson from Iowa, Travion Henderson from Ohio State, Quinshon Junkins from Ohio State. But tonight, for sure, I think Ashton Jeanty and Omarion Hampton will hear their names called.
Staying with the offense, the quarterbacks are completely different styles when you're talking about Cameron Ward from Miami and Colorado's Shedeur Sanders. Coach Mack, teams like the Titans who've evaluated both of these prospects, how do you decide who might be best for Brian Callahan, knowing that he would conform an offensive approach to whoever they might select?
Yeah, well, there's two parts to that question, Red. First of all, it's their physical ability and what you see that they can do. And into that comes all the physical components of arm talent, anticipation, accuracy, those types of things, but also the personality of the quarterback. You pick a quarterback at number one, that dude's got to be an alpha dude. He's got to be the leader of what your football team's going to be. You only find that out when you have all of these meetings, extensive meetings, that they've had with all of these players starting back when this evaluation period started after the season. That's what you're looking for, somebody that covers all of those bases that you're going to have lead your team.
Ramon, these two quarterbacks seem to have very different personalities and very different leadership styles. How much do you have to take that into consideration locker room-wise and how they will impact the dynamics of what you already have established?
It's one of those things where you want to encourage them to be leaders more than anything. And that position, I was told by folks that was around in the league, you are somewhat more important inside the building than the owner, than the head coach, because you command a lot. People watch everything you do. You hold the football every single play. So whatever leadership you have, it needs to just be exact. You can't be one of those guys that waver back and forth. If you are thought to be the franchise changer, you got to lead in that way. You got to be vocal with guys. You got to drag guys to the finish line sometimes. And that's the way I look at Cam Ward in a sense. He's a guy that grabs you and tell you this is how we're doing things. And he might have a little friction between guys. While I look at Shedeur in a sense and say he might be a little bit dismissive of guys. Either you're with me or you're not. And neither one of those things are bad because it all boils down to how guys connect to you. If they connect with guys, whatever they say and however they direct their leadership qualities on them, they'll fall in line with it, especially if they become a playmaker too.
Mac, it feels like in their own separate ways and different ways, they were both meant to be made for this moment. We're talking about Cameron Ward and Shedeur Sanders. Despite their differing career paths, is the moment too big for either of them?
No, neither one of them. I think they both demonstrated that they are, and you put it very correctly. And they've gotten to this in different paths. They've gotten to this in different ways. You know, Shedeur, the world-famous dad, but has been around this league nearly all of his life. Since he could walk, he's been in the locker room in this league. Now, you look at Cameron Ward, he has had to work his way up through the ranks, basically as a zero-star recruit coming out of high school down there in South Texas to all of a sudden now having a chance to be the first pick in the NFL draft. But they have both prepared themselves, maybe different paths, but in the same way for this moment.
What are these guys, Ramon, if you're just thinking about this, what's going through their mind and some of these other guys' minds as they're waiting to hear their name called and That's going to start at the top of the hour here in just a few minutes.
It's almost like Christmas. This is one of their biggest moments in their lives that they've had, barring either one of these guys having a child or, something huge happening. This is by far a milestone moment. This is what you dreamed of. I never forget being about 10 years old in my grandmama's backyard saying, I want to play in the NFL. I didn't know what it meant. But when that moment came, it was relieving. It was satisfying, man. And there is no higher moment, whether you get drafted or undrafted, when that team calls your phone, that the level of excitement you'll be able to have.
And you have to remember, I'm guessing it's not just for the player, but for their families, for their coaches, for the people who have supported them throughout their journey to get to this moment.
I mean, think about this. Think about there's a lot of stuff that you are told to do and have done by your parents, taking you and dropping you off at, you have daughters, dance or cheer or soccer or volleyball, whatever that case may be. There's a lot of that goes into it. And not that parents are searching for that to be the case. Hey, I want my kid to be the number 1 overall pick, a first-round draft pick. You have just been supporting because you love them. And you want to see that love that you poured into your children on draft night or being able to walk into the NFL, they receive that and show that back to you. And just in the appreciation of, hey, this race of getting you to this point is done, and it's nothing more satisfying. I still remember my mom's face, whenever I made the team. It was by far one of the coolest moments that you could have, because there's a lot that goes into just getting to college and making it through and getting to that point.
So as we approach historic territory for the Titans, any final thoughts before the Titans get on the clock here?
Any final thoughts?
Yeah, anything you're thinking before we get this thing rolling, because it's going to be crazy here in a few minutes.
For me, it's what a time. Everything's pointing in the right direction. You have ownership and management on the same page. You have the same voices coming out. And if it's Cam, if it's Shedeur, if it's anybody else, it just feels like the lead up to this moment is perfect for the guy that I feel like they're going to draft in Cam Ward. For his mentality, the way he's approached this, and honestly, this part too. It's one thing to go date somebody and you feel like, okay, well, maybe they're not into me as I am into them. No, he's live streaming. He's been very matter of fact to the guys that he want to talk about and be a part of his organization. So when you got a mutual thing like this, it's awesome.
We're making it official tonight.
Yes, we are.
Facebook status.
Yeah, we're going to put a ring on it, baby. When we return, the Titans make the first overall pick in the 2025 draft. And for the first time in Titans history, as you listen to Titans radio coverage presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Before we continue, let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. The Titans always play here. This is Titans Radio. Nissan Stadium for the 2025 NFL Draft Party on Titans Radio. And that coverage tonight is presented by our friends at Farm Bureau Health Plans. When it's game day for your health coverage, trust Farm Bureau Health Plans to draw up the winning play. They've been backing Tennesseans for nearly 80 years. Rhett Bryan alongside Amy Wells, Ramon Foster, and our head coach of Titans Radio, Dave McGinnis. Ladies and gents, we have come to the point where the Titans are about to make history. They've never picked number 1 overall in Titans history. It has been since 1978, since the franchise did it. 17,159 days ago, they took Earl Campbell, the Tyler Rose Heisman Trophy winner from the University of Texas, the running back, who we heard earlier last hour, didn't even know he was drafted until he got home and his roommate told him Bum Phillips was looking for him. This is game-changing right here, and if it's what we believe it to be, it's a new face of the franchise and potentially a franchise quarterback.
Well, it absolutely is, Brett, and there's no doubt. First of all, that's some impressive math. Getting to 17,000.
He counted the days.
That's impressive math.
It took me 3 months, Mac, but I got to it.
But you got to it for tonight. The thing that's important to know about this is in my 39 drafts that I've been involved in, I've only been involved in a number 1 pick one time.
Wow.
One time. And it was a franchise-changing moment. You're exactly right. So the build-up to what this is, the draft builds momentum since the season's over. You know how huge the swell is but the fact that you have the number 1 pick, and we've all said it, everybody's heard it, it's a franchise-changing moment. It really is. So that's extremely, extremely important. And the thing that happens with this type of things, there's a lot of things that will daisy chain off of this pick. A lot of things will come to be in the future off of this pick. So it's a big moment.
Mac, when you're evaluating a player and you're putting together a player, you're trying to decide who you're going to have when you have that first pick. You don't have to deal with what the other league is doing. You don't have to take into consideration what other teams are wanting to do and the smoke screens and some of the silliness that goes on leading up to the draft. You can just focus on finding the best fit for your team. How much of an advantage is that for the Tennessee Titans this year with a young head coach, with a young general manager, with a young staff that's all coming together in this first year of really coalescing together?
Well, that's a great point, and it's a real point too, because look, if you earn the first pick, then you've got to take advantage of it. And being able to take advantage of it, there'll be over 270 players picked tonight. You've got your choice of the first one. And so that's extremely important as to what fits into your roster at this point of time as to what you're trying to build. It's huge.
Here's Roger Goodell.
Okay, welcome to the 2025 NFL Draft in Green Bay, Wisconsin. People said that Green Bay was too small for this, with a population of 107,000. But we have over 125,000 people here and still counting. Obviously, Green Bay may be small, but it's mighty. Thank you all for welcoming us here tonight, and hope you have a great few days.
So here's Commissioner Roger Goodell pumping the crowd up at the podium, the 2025 NFL Draft. They all rode out on bicycles like they do to the practice facility.
3 days, we will welcome in the next generation of stars into the NFL and bring hope to every NFL team, and we may have a few surprises for you tonight. But first, let's hear from some of your Packer greats. Please welcome Clay Matthews, Jordy Nelson, Mason Crosby, Amon Green. James Jones. And Packers superfan Lil Wayne.
I'm going to go off script here real quick, Roger, but I just got off the phone with the President, Donald Trump. He asked me to pass a message along to all 32 NFL franchises. So let me tell you what it reads here, all right? It says, my fellow Americans, the Bears still suck! Let's go! Go Pack! I'm sorry, Roger, I'm sorry.
Wow. That's a first. That's the red meat being thrown out here in the dairy world.
Okay, Green Bay. It's time to get the show started. Are you ready? The 2025 NFL Draft is now officially open. The Tennessee Titans are on the clock.
Tennessee Titans, 3-14 under first-year head coach Brian Callahan. Last place in the AFC South Division. Tennessee moved on from GM Ran Carthon and filled that position with longtime Kansas City Chiefs evaluator and assistant GM Mike Borgonzi. The Titans need a franchise quarterback, and the addition of veteran Brandon Allen as a backup means they will more than likely look to the draft to find a solution. Pass rusher Harold Landry is gone, and even with the addition of veteran Lorenzo Carter, adding to that group in this draft is on the checklist. Other needs include cornerback, linebacker, and another wide receiver. The Titans have the first overall selection, pick 35 in round 2, and multiple selections in rounds 4, 5, and 6. The Tennessee Titans.
So, Mac, the Titans earned the number 1 overall pick. A dismal 2024 season, 3-14, and now the fruits of the labor. This is where the ROI comes back.
Yeah, but that's all behind you now.
That's correct.
This is about looking forward. This is about a huge impetus for this football team moving forward, because the National Football League is like a huge train. It's on the tracks and it's moving. And we want to keep it moving forward, and that's what this is about, this moment right here, Brett.
All right, I want to ask you this, because you were a part of when the Titans traded the number 1 pick in 2016. You took Jared Goff when you and Coach Fisher were with the Los Angeles Rams. What is it like in that war room now that all the work is done?
Well, I mean, it's a great feeling. It's an anticipation, just like everybody here. We're anticipating the call. But it's a sense of relief and a sense of knowing that you have done all the preparation that you need to do, and then it's a sense of excitement. We were excited. We were excited to move to L.A. from St. Louis, and then we were excited to put a quarterback in place. And so that's what we did. But that feeling right now, at this moment, you just can't wait for it to be announced.
Ramon Foster, what's the feeling for the other people on the Tennessee Titans right now? The guys who are on this team, who know that their first-round draft pick is going to be coming into their locker room and is going to be ushering in what we hope is a new era of Titans football.
Well, if you're a wide receiver, you're uber excited if it's Cam Ward. Let's start there first. But it's also, like Coach Mack said, it's a breath of fresh air almost, in a sense. It's, okay, new year, but as a player on that team, you're thinking to yourself, how is this guy really going to help us? What do we need to do to help assist him? And you know what? Let's not make a big deal of it, because when you walk into that locker room, you're one of us. And there's also the other side of it too, Amy, where you're walking to our locker room. We've been here. This is our league too. As much as we want you to be great, we also need you to show us that also. So it's exciting, but it's also the other side of it. One of those quarterbacks potentially in that room may have to look at it and say, I got to battle for a job. So there's a lot of emotions, Amy, that go into it.
You've got to balance letting a new person be a leader and take those reins, but still knowing that he's walking into someone else's house right away, correct?
It is, absolutely. That's why, for the most part, most veterans will tell a rookie, no matter who he is, you're to be seen and not heard. And in that moment right there, prove it. It's such a prove it league. And as much as you show me as much of a star you want to be, go be whoever the heck you want to be. We'll name a bar after you on Broadway if you're that good. But that's the beauty of the league, Amy, and that's the hope too. Is Rhett told us all the days to the number 1 overall pick. Like, legitimately, there's a lot that weighs on that. And if it is Cam Ward, and I think we all think that, I think he's built for that. Everything I've seen and read about him, it's a beautiful thing to actually see him be in this spot.
As we look into the draft room right now, you see them on the phone with somebody. We can assume that the pick is going to be in any minute now. Brian Callahan is talking on the phone.
Very giddy.
Amy Adams-Strunk looks just happy as a lark, so that's got to be a great sign, right?
I would say it is.
It is, yeah.
A very good sign, and a sign that will send an eruption of cheers here in the West Club of Nissan Stadium.
And
with a
down on the
packed house.
field,
Oh, gosh,
Brett.
it's a packed house.
I mean,
the weather held out. Thank you for that.
Yep.
But, yeah, it's a great turnout for a historic moment in the franchise history.
You're high-fiving Amy for controlling the weather.
Yeah, it was me.
I mean,
Yeah.
Amy Wells can do a lot of things.
I just made a call.
She made a call.
Well, whatever you did, that's
But
great.
When you see them on the phone in the draft room, that's a big moment. It's a
Yep.
huge moment for everybody. You saw everybody in that room standing up, looking, because this is what all of these months and months and months of work
Matt,
have been.
take us behind the scenes a little bit. Are they calling his agent? Are they calling his cell phone directly? Like, who's receiving that call?
His cell phone.
His cell phone directly.
His cell phone. You want the number. You say, give me the number, your number, where you will be on draft day. We want your number. And that's the number we want. And then you check them periodically. Is this still a live number? Is this still a live number? Is this still a live number? Because you don't want anything to fall through the cracks.
You hear those horror stories.
Yeah, have you had circumstances where you could, not a number 1 overall pick, but where you could not get a selection on the phone?
Yes.
Yes. Well, I know there have been, you hear the stories about, like, the fax machine goes dead, or someone accidentally hangs up and hits the wrong button, or, I mean, those stories exist. Or someone accidentally tweets out the number. That happened to the Dallas Cowboys.
Sure.
That was not good.
Or how about when Mohamed Sanu was taken in the 2nd round by the Bengals and someone pranked him to tell him he was called in the 1st round? And remember when that happened?
Yes. And that's the other side of it, too, with as much technology guys having access to. Like, somebody texting you. Like, you got to put your phone on a specific, there are no new numbers coming into my phone, or, hey, specific numbers that you don't want calling you, text messages, social media, and all that type of stuff. You don't want your phone line to be crowded.
Yeah, you'd almost need
a different number.
Yeah, that's not crowded.
Yeah.
That nobody else knows.
Man.
Well, the thing that happens with this, too, is as critical as this is, and especially a first pick, all of this stuff is pretty well lined out. But, I mean, the Titans have a person right there. Yep. The Titans have a person right there in that room we're looking at right now. I'm talking about in Green Bay, to make sure all of this stuff connects up.
How much do you rehearse things like this? Is it something that you can rehearse? Obviously, a lot of the people in the Titans draft room have done this many, many times, and this is not a new order of operations for anybody. But there has to be some sort of a dry run, right? You make sure your technology's working, you make sure everything's going.
Here we go. The answer to that's yes, too.
Commissioner Roger Goodell approaches the podium for the 1st overall pick by the Tennessee Titans.
Come on. With the first pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Cameron Ward, quarterback, Miami.
Cameron Anthony Ward, 6'1.5", 219, hands 9, arms 30 and 5/8, wings 75 and 3/4. 18,000-yard passer, the all-time FBS leader in touchdowns with 158. And Coach Mack, you're talking about a young man that has the sidearm shortstop delivery and Gumby bend when he's moving in the pocket to extend the play with his body.
Well, look, this guy is got so much. He's got so much talent. Let's start with arm talent, but also let's start with attitude. What this guy is, what he has gone through from West Columbia, Brazoria in Texas to get here to Green Bay as the #1 pick in the draft has really displayed what his character is. This, as you can see, just by his demeanor walking up, this man has been about business for a long time. He's been about business. this is something to be very, very excited about. I love seeing all the faces out here, the faces down there on the field. This is a big, big moment right here. Huge moment.
But look how emotional he's getting. We can see on the TV, he's crying.
You see his eyes are red.
He's feeling the gravity of this moment, which is such an exciting thing to see as a fan, to see the person who's coming into your organization. He cares about this moment and about this team that he's coming to.
And Amy Wells, all of this is being documented. Firebrand Media is a company that's putting out a 10-part series called Zero Star. The first episode is about Cameron Anthony Ward, quarterback, Tennessee Titans, 0 to hero star for the Tennessee Titans franchise. An amazing story. And Ramon, in a world where only in America, someone gave him a chance in Incarnate Word, a private school in Texas, and he is the poster man of the transfer portal. He makes a pivot in 2 years at Pullman, Washington, to the Washington State Cougars. And then he cries and thinks about going to the NFL draft this time a year ago. Got grades that, hey, probably a third-round pick maybe.
No doubt about it.
And then he goes back into the portal, goes to Miami, and there we are. All right, so we have our first trade of the night, and this is a big one, and it's been kind of expected in the last hour or so. So the Jacksonville Jaguars have traded up to the number 2 spot. Their rookie, young 34-year-old general manager James Gladstone, who came from the Los Angeles Rams, have traded with the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland trades down to 5. What an amazing time right after this big pick by the Titans.
Well, we all know. Here's what we do know. We do know that this pick from the Titans was the one that cascaded and started this whole draft now. Now the draft is off and rolling, and this is going to be extremely, extremely important. Now, as a Titans, you've picked. You really don't care who anybody else is picking right now. So the moment is huge, but the draft, and plus there were no trades before the draft started. So this has been in the work. I've been on the phone in these situations many a time before the draft, getting it set up, and you don't release it until you're on the clock. That's what we're watching go on right now.
And go ahead, Amy. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, it's very unusual that there's no trades before the draft starts. It's not a normal thing. We usually see a lot. Now that it's happening this early, to your point, it's been in the works. It just didn't need to happen until someone was on the clock. Is that correct?
That is correct. Can we hear Cameron Ward doing this, or we can't hear him doing this? The engineers over here shake their head no.
Mac, you're just going off script.
I've got to look to them.
What if we just talk to him in a few minutes?
Yeah, let's talk to him.
Okay, right?
Good. Yeah. He's going to be on with us very, 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 very quickly. But yeah, you're right. A lot of times.
Go ahead.
Yeah, keep talking, man.
I'm listening to him.
Oh, no, we can't hear Matt.
Yeah.
You're right, though. This is something that's never happened in NFL history. We've never had a situation where we got this close to the draft with no trades of any first-round pick.
That's
the
my
last time that happened was 5 days before the 1993 NFL draft, when the San Francisco 49ers sent quarterback Joe Montana to the Kansas City Chiefs for a first-round pick. We got to night 1, pick 1 before there was a trade of first-round picks. Pretty wild.
That's a great point. And Rhett Bryan is full of information. We call it Rhett Nuggets. He's got nuggets all through this draft for us in the next 3 days, and that's extremely important. And it was rare. We talked about it, Ramon, going up into this point, that there had been no talks publicly about a trade, but you knew going on behind the scenes. I've just done it for too many years. Somebody was getting something put together.
No doubt about it, Coach Mack. And here's the other part of it, too. I mean, you say you don't watch what other teams do, but this is a situation right here where somebody in your division picked number 1 overall to get themselves together with the Tennessee Titans. Immediately behind them, Jacksonville Jaguars make a trade to move up for somebody that they think is that's going to help them to tremendously be very competitive. They got Brian Thomas as one of their wide receivers. They got Trevor Lawrence. They got some defensive pieces in mind. I'm interested to see what direction they go right here, Mac, to this side. also combat what Houston has done to keep Tennessee behind you in a sense. That's those types of moves that are made right now because to your point, and Amy's a second ago, this trade happened very fast. So it lets you somewhat think this situation has been set in stone for a little while right now. They just had to announce it on draft night.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, that you look at what they look and see what they gave up.
Yeah.
Because they've clearly got a lot of faith in whoever they're going to pick here. Because if you look at it, once the terms of this trade come through, Brett will have it for us later on. They gave up quite a bit to get up.
They did.
To this point. They had to give up quite a bit. So anyway,
the Browns, they traded the number 2 overall pick, 4th round pick 104, and 6th round pick 200 to the Jaguars.
Well, and what's extremely, extremely important is now, what did the Browns get back? And
they got back the 5th overall pick, 2nd round pick at 36, 4th round pick at 126, and their 2026 first round pick.
See, that's huge.
There's
huge draft capital. Huge draft capital.
And there's one guy they're going to trade up for, and we're going to get this guy here in just a second, because there's one reason you make this move.
Correct.
One of the blue chip players of this draft.
While we are here tonight to celebrate the 32 young men entering the NFL, I'm honored to take a moment to recognize a player who's made a profound impact on and off the field. The Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year Award, presented by Nationwide, recognizes one player each year who best represents greatness and compassion both on and off the field and in the community. Tonight, we are proudly joined by the 2024 Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year, Eric Armstead.
First off, Duval. Let's go! I want to say thank you to the commissioner. Thank you to the Payton family and the NFL and Nationwide. And also, too, tonight I want to encourage each player embarking on the NFL journey to identify a passion close to their heart and act upon it. Use your platform to make your community, the league, and this world a better place. As we remember Walter Payton, strive to leave a positive legacy of your own. Thank you. We have a trade. The Cleveland Browns have traded the 2nd pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And with the 2nd pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Travis Hunter, wide receiver, defensive back from Colorado.
Travis Hunter, 6 feet and 3/8 inches, 188, hands 9 and 8, armed 31 and 3/8, wings 76 and 7/8. The 2024 Heisman Trophy winner, 2-way player at the University of Colorado, 104 snaps per game. The endurance and conditioning of this young man, Coach Mack, is remarkable.
Yeah, well, when you vet him with an impartial eye and just look at him, he did something during his career that nobody's done. Even Deion Sanders, who's his mentor, that played 2 ways in the National Football League and also took helicopters to play professional baseball. He didn't play 105 snaps a game at Florida State. This guy is a unique athlete. It's going to be interesting to see where Jacksonville, he's going to have to major in one, minor in the other. So it's going to be very interesting to see where they place him. But they clearly have a plan for him. You don't trade all of this and trade a number 1 pick also next year to come up and do this.
No, absolutely not. He's one of those guys that's always been a playmaker, Mac. I'm talking about from high school to college at every single level. And that's the expectation I'm sure Jacksonville is going to have for a guy like him. It's unique to watch where they're going to play him. Again, they have Brian Thomas Jr. on their roster right now, wide receiver. Again, I don't think Travis Hunter is the most polished wide receiver when it comes to his route runner, but he's one of those guys that he's an athlete, one of those uber athletic guys that you've always seen win in life. He can run, he can jump, he can catch, he can defend. Whatever you want him to do, he can. What his biggest issue is going going to have to be in the NFL is how do they balance where you delegate his play and practice also, man. Training camp in the NFL is hard. I mean, it's demanding, it's taxing, and the season's longer too. There will have to be a balance for his role on his team. But we'll see. Trevor Lawrence is one of those guys, man, I'm sure that needs help offensively, and we got to see what he's going to look like with a guy like this. Again, we knew he was one of the best prospects in the draft, period. And watching him still go this high, I know a lot of people probably thought Abdul Carter was going to be one of those guys, but no. Travis Hunter has earned this from high school all the way to this point that he's #2 overall guy.
Let's go back to Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Titans head coach Brian Callahan addressing the media about the pick, Cam Ward.
To get started and get back to work and coach football and stop pretending about all the things we have to pretend about over the course of the last couple months, and be able to get going and move forward. It's time to start doing some football. So with that, I'll let you guys ask any questions you have.
What were some of the traits, I guess you kind of touched on them all, but both as a player and as a person, maybe could you elaborate a little bit on that?
So the football part, incredibly poised, has a great knowledge of both offensive scheme and defensive structure. He has the what I would call a natural ability to feel space. He can see and understand and feel without explaining exactly what it is he's feeling. He just feels it. That goes with the way he moves in the pocket. That goes with the way he sees and feels space in the defense. He's an incredibly quick processor. He has great physical tools on top of it. He's got size. He's got athleticism. You know, Cam's one of those guys I think growing up was sort of good at everything. You know, he's got a really unique athletic ability. He can move the ball with his feet. He can throw it. His release is one of the quickest releases I've seen, and he's incredibly accurate. So all of the things you look for from a physical standpoint and a mental standpoint showed up. The intangible part of it is really what separated him for us, because he's got his work ethic is top notch. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's trying to prove every day that he's worthy, and that won't change the minute he gets here. It'll stay the same. His journey is unique. He's experienced a lot of things when it comes to new places, new faces, new teammates, and his ability to connect with all of them was incredibly impressive. And I think that when you look at players that have done those things over time, their chances of connecting in an NFL locker room, you just get to see so much more of it, and their ability to raise the level of play, to raise the organization around him. Cam has done that at really every place he's been over his college career. And then you just look at how he was raised, the family he comes from. His parents are incredibly impressive people. They raised him in what you'd like to call the right way, I think. And that shows up. It shows up in how he treats people, shows up in how he interacts with people. When he came on his 30 visit here, he interacted with our building, and there wasn't a person in our building that didn't come away impressed. And he walked all over it. I brought him all over. We went upstairs, downstairs. His interactions, I think, if you asked anybody in the building, were really, really, really positive. And people came away with just there's an aura to him. He draws people to him. So I think everyone felt the same thing when he came in our building, which was really cool to see.
The offer that the Giants made sounded pretty hefty. Mm-hmm. When did that come along the timeline, and was there a temptation at that time?
Yeah, I think we went through the process the correct way. You know, we considered all things available to us. As far as when and where and how much. That doesn't really matter now at this point. But those conversations, those offers, we did our due diligence, and ultimately we just felt like Cam is a player that we weren't going to let go anywhere else except here to Tennessee. So we arrived at that consensus. It took a lot of work to get there, and I don't think at any point since we made that decision there's really wasn't any conversations past that. You know, I said it before that I think when you have an opportunity to add a caliber of quarterback like Cam, those things are priceless. There's no price you put on that from draft capital standpoint, because those players end up being what you think they're capable of. Those picks don't matter when it comes to future picks and draft capital, because he's got the ability to be a really fantastic quarterback.
It's built around Cam look like, and how does that differ from what Titans fans saw last year?
We'll get into that, as we get moving. But there's some things that he did in college that he was really successful at. there's some plays that we have some commonalities on. I think if you dive into the film, you'll see it. There's definitely some carryover concepts. Cam is a pocket passing drop back quarterback. I mean, he's got all of the things that you need to do those, to run those concepts, to see the field, to read through progressions. So there's some carryover from some things that we do and he's done. We'll make sure that all of the offense that we put in is the things that he's comfortable with, and that's the idea. When you're trying to help a young quarterback be successful, he's got a long way to go though. He's got to earn it. He's got to earn those reps and those rights to have all that input and that dialogue. But I have no doubt that he'll do the requisite work.
Multiple, in detail, some of the things that you like about him. But if you had to pick one particular feature and talent trait that he has, what would it be to make you believe that he could turn things around for this organization?
To me, it's the leadership ability and the way he's able to make those around him better. That to me is a huge part of the position, and that's what I think ultimately separates. There's a lot of talented players. There's a lot of guys that can throw the football. There's a lot of guys that can play the position, but the guys that transcend have a unique ability to connect with their teammates and then raise the level of everyone around them. And I think that's what he has shown to do really at every stop he's been, and hopefully that continues here.
That's Titans head coach Brian Callahan. And it's clear, ladies and gents, that Cam Ward won over everyone with his approach, his leadership, his alpha attitude and mentality, if you will. And I think he's been the guy for quite some time.
Well, the vetting process that I always talk about, the personal interaction that you have to make with these guys when you're thinking about taking them, he just went through that and told you that. I mean, I've experienced it. But once you get face-to-face with these guys and not only talk football, but figure out where they are in life and what they've been brought up as values, this is what the vetting process is about.
It is, Mac, and the other side of it too, man. At some point during this process, if guys were, as folks say sometimes, faking it, you're around people too much, Mac, to not get caught, to not slip up a time or two. And everything I've heard about Cameron Ward is this: he's a true pro in his approach to doing his job, what his job is also. I was listening to somebody where he was telling a story about he was in this pre-draft. Hey, do you want to go do this? He was like, no, I play football. You love those types of guys, and when you have that internal and you're able to pour that back into your teammates, into the organization, it makes everything better. It's a believable sense when a guy lives it like that, too, and it seems to be his pathway to the NFL. That's what you get from a guy like him.
Go ahead, Amy.
The thing that we heard Coach Callahan talk about a couple different ways was his processing, his ability to intake information, understand information. How important is that, and how do you even measure something like that?
I mean, this is the craziest thing about the NFL, more than anything, or in college when you become a starter too, is the physical part. Oh, you got that. You heard Coach Callahan say that a second ago. Everybody's got the arm, everybody got the legs, everybody's got the athletic ability. There are only so many hours in the day that you get, and only so many games you get also to be good. And the ability to process quick, Amy, good and bad stuff is what matters the most in the league. The guys that don't make it most times isn't because of their athletic ability. It's because of how they process and how they're able to move on from good and bad plays. And I think that's one of those things that's super understated. And it's one of those things that's overly necessary for that position, too. So it was good to hear him harp in on that topic of quick processor, smart, all those types of things. That's the baseline of it. But the ability to deliver is where your athletic parts of it come into play. And he's shown that.
You have to have a real organized plan for this vetting process. You don't just go and just put him out there to any. You have to have an organized plan. They clearly had a very, very detailed and organized vetting process for this pick.
When we come back, we will catch you up on what has happened in the first 3 or 4 picks. But most importantly, the Tennessee Titans have their quarterback, Cam Ward out of Miami, as you listen to Titans Radio's coverage of the 2025 NFL Draft on Titans Radio.
Who will General Manager Mike Borgonzi select next?
Radio presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. When it's crunch time for your health coverage, trust Farm Bureau Health Plans to implement the perfect game plan. With nearly 80 years of protecting Tennesseans, they know how to win. Catching you up for just a second here. Abdul Carter, third overall to the Giants, the pass rusher from Penn State at number 3. And number 2, the Jacksonville Jaguars trade up to number 2 with the Cleveland Browns, and they take Travis Hunter from Colorado. But most importantly, at number 1 overall, Cam Ward is a Tennessee Titan. And in fact, the Patriots have just selected tackle Will Campbell from LSU. And
let me say this.
Yeah,
our draft board that we talk about on air all the time, that took you and I 4.5 months to put together, these are the top guys in all of these categories. As I'm looking at
Pod 1.
Looking at our draft board, not to say we did a good job, but we did a good job.
No, you definitely did a good job. You did a great job. And I guess that's part of this whole thing, too. Being able to not only know who is a good player for your respective group, but also understanding what the other teams are going to be doing. That all has to come into your mind, your thought process as you're putting together your draft board, right?
Yeah, well, when you put together a draft board to do a big draft show like we've done for years, the thing that's important is you do it with all the league in mind. And then as you start to look, then you start to balance it with what the Titans need. And as I say, we don't put our board together for the Titans' needs. We put it together as to how they would relate in relation to all the other teams, but the value of the player in whatever you vet, that's where it has to be.
While we're sitting here watching Will Campbell walk onto the stage, he is the newest selection of the New England Patriots. Ramon, tell me about Will Campbell and what stood out to you about him.
More than anything, he's just nasty. What stood out to me more, and I think this is why people are making him a guard, is because he finishes often. His ability to roll his hips and get lateral and vertical at the same time is what I think one of his strong sense, which makes a lot of teams say it's easy to move him to guard because they knock him for his arms. He, to me, is what I think Mike Vrabel is going to want out of an offensive lineman, whether he keeps him at tackle or move him inside. I do think this is a good pick. I like him at tackle also.
Well, I know Mac talks about him possibly moving inside, but they need a left tackle. It seems like they're going to play him at left tackle if you're going to take him at 4, Mac.
He'll start off at tackle.
Yeah.
He will start off at tackle.
I agree with you.
And they talk about, and now arm length is a big thing. It really is. But, I mean, when you watch him play, he's got good enough feet. Yeah. He's got good enough movement. Technique to make up for that lack of ideal arm length. His arms are still long enough.
But, Mac, to Ramon's point, you kind of have a safety net. You take this guy so high, you want him to play no matter what. You're going to start him at tackle, see what he can do there. But if you can move him inside to guard, if that's a better fit for him, you're still getting great production out of a guy that you took in the top 5.
Well, and as Rhett said, too, with what they have on their roster, they got to fix their offensive line. They have to.
They got to protect Drake May. They have to.
They do. I mean, they've got a second-year quarterback that is going to be a good dealer, but they've got to protect him, and that's exactly why this guy was taken.
And he's getting emotional. I love it when the big guys cry. Is that a me thing?
It's not a me thing.
Maybe it's a me thing. I don't know.
No, it's not.
It's so lovely.
I'll tell you what, him going to Boston, this will be the last time he cried. He's not.
Well, here's the other part, too. And Ramon, you've got long arms. He's been told he's had short arms his whole life as a large man playing a big man's game.
He's already had to adjust to it, Rhett. That's why I like him a whole lot, man, because technically there's not many guys better than him in the draft. I look at dudes like him and say, if he can go in and hold his own physically, he's in a spot, Rhett, to where his technique is going to save him for years and years and years to come. Man, I like this selection for them on the basis of, to your point, this is how he's lived.
Well, he'll have a chip on his shoulder because at 77 and change in a wing, it's the shortest wingspan of a tackle prospect at the Combine since 2011. But guess what? Mike Vrabel and the brass there in Patriots land said, yeah, this is the guy to help our guy.
It is, man, and not just that, though, too, Rhett. Where he played at in college, he's seen guys that he's going to see on Sunday, right? We brag all the time about how the SEC is the most dominated conference when it comes to the draft. The guys that he's going to have to go up against, he's seen those dudes. He's seen these trench monsters for for years now.
All right, we have a special guest here on Titans Radio. It is your newest quarterback of the Tennessee Titans, Cameron Ward. Cam, thank you so much for taking some time. How good does it feel to be the quarterback of the Tennessee Titans? Is that how you like to be introduced now?
It feels real good, man. I've been waiting on this moment forever, especially play in Tennessee, man. Ain't no better organization to play for but them.
Cam, it wasn't a secret that the Titans were interested in you. They made it very clear that you were their guy. How did it feel to be wanted and valued and pursued by a team the same way that you wanted to be drafted by a team?
It felt real good, especially an owner like Miss Amy, the GM like Mr. Mike, and the president like Mr. Chad and Coach Callahan. I just think they have a great building. The culture they have is already good, and I just think the team that they have, they don't get enough credit for what they really are. So, I'm excited to, step into this, new opportunities, next chapter of my life, and I'm ready to get the ground running.
Cam, first of all, congratulations. Welcome to Nashville. And the journey that you have, you are the poster man for the transfer portal and something that is earned, not given. Have you had a split second to think about going from 0-star at Incarnate Word to Miami and a stop in between at Washington State to being the first overall pick in the draft? That's got to be a surreal moment.
Yeah, man, it's been a blessing for me to start how I did and never, lose faith in God and, never just want to stop working. I mean, it's all God put me in this position, but, I'm blessed. I've been surrounded around great teammates in my past schools. They're a big reason why I'm here today, along with my coaching staff. But, I'm ready to get to work, and, I'm just ready, put on that two-tone blue and try to win some games.
There it is.
Cam Ward, man, congratulations, man, on #1 overall. That's a dream that a lot of guys chasing. You actually achieved it, man. When it comes to you being in this spot right now, one thing that's always been bragged about with you is your leadership, your poise. I have to ask you, and I've heard the stories and read up on you before, but where does that come from, and how do you keep and maintain that coming to a team that's drafted #1 overall?
I just think it comes from, different challenges that I went throughout my whole football career, even growing up. And I just think my relationships and wanting to get to know my teammates outside the locker room, and then also, being a team player. No man is above the team, whether you're the quarterback or you're the star receiver or you're the star defensive player. At the end of the day, we all bleed red. And I think the faster the team can, come to understand that we all won, it'll be able to help our communication in the long run.
When it comes down to you getting comfortable here, man, you got to walk into a locker room that may have some late 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds, man. What's one of the first things you want to do walking into this Tennessee Titans locker room to kind of win your teammates over?
First thing I'm going to do is learn their name. I don't know everybody's name yet. It's going to take me about a month to learn the whole bit of name, but they got to give me some time. But, other than that, I just want to work with my boys, show them that, I'm willing to do anything to win, and show them that I just want to, be a team guy and try to win games.
Cam, Coach Callahan was bragging on you a little bit. He was talking about a lot of the intangible things you have, how smart you are. He was talking about how much you process information and how quickly your brain works. What do you do to study the game, to prepare your mind for being a quarterback at the next level?
Regular basis, whether it's getting up early or staying.
You still with us, Cam?
Blessed me with a gift and seeing the field, whether it's going through progression or seeing space or checking into runs. And so, a lot of those things going to take care of itself. But I think, just Coach Callahan, what he has to offer, just to help my game offensively, what he did with Joe Burrow when he was in Cincinnati, it's going to help my game as well.
Cam, one last thing on this. How refreshing is it to know that you have a coach in Brian Callahan, an offensive mind, who has been through this process when they drafted Joe Burrow? And he said multiple times in the offseason that he will conform the offense to a guy's attributes, skill set, and those things. How refreshing is it to know that you'll have somebody to work with to help get you into this offense and mold it to what you want?
That's all a quarterback needs, is a coach who believes in him and a coach who's going to do what the quarterback is good at. A lot of stuff that Coach Callahan runs, I ran a lot, whether it's at Miami or Wazoo or Incarnate Word. So a lot of it translates over into Coach Callahan's offense. So, I think when I get there, it'll be plug and play. Then the biggest thing I have to work on is just having my teammates trust me, and then just connecting with the receivers and getting timing down with those guys.
Cam Ward, congratulations. Thanks for the time. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, Cam Ward, the quarterback of the Tennessee Titans, the first overall pick in the 2025 draft. And we'll continue coverage of that said draft presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans in about 2 minutes.
Coach Mack here. Your favorite team is everything to you, and you always want them to win. Sure, football is important.
Plans, Brett Bryant, Amy Wells, Coach Dave McGinnis, Ramon Foster. As the Titans have a new quarterback, the number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward, Miami. Let's get you up to date on what's happened here in this last couple of picks. A trade with the Cleveland Browns made with Jacksonville. Travis Hunter goes to Jacksonville, a number 2 overall from Colorado. Abdul Carter, the pass rusher from Penn State, goes 3rd overall to the New York Giants. At number 4, the New England Patriots take offensive tackle from LSU, Will Campbell. And then Cleveland Browns, who traded down to 5, take a defensive tackle from Michigan, one of the tops in that group, Mason Graham. And then just off the board, the first running back as the Las Vegas Raiders, Mac, take Ashton Genty from Boise State. And that is somebody they really need in this Raiders offense because they desperately missed having Josh Jacobs leave and go to Green Bay.
Yeah, they missed Josh Jacobs a lot. And then Ashton Genty was our number 1 back on our board. So this is right where they should have gone. And then, again, they've got new leadership there, too. So right now, with this pick, they're exactly on board with what they need.
All right, so we are now joined by General Manager of the Tennessee Titans, Mike Borgonzi. Congratulations on selecting Cam Ward, quarterback Miami, as the number 1 overall pick in this draft and the first pick in your role as General Manager of the Titans. Congratulations. And where was the moment, Mike, when you guys realized Cam's the guy?
You know, we went through thank you, first of all, as an exciting time for the franchise. And, you know, really for us, like I said, we went through the whole process in evaluating Cam, not only the guy, you know, the player on the field, but also the person. You know, we felt pretty good about the evaluation of the player on the field, probably, you know, around the time of the combine. And then we wanted to get through, you know, the rest of the steps that we said we were going to go through and meet with Cam and get him on the board. And you know, he passed everything that, and even more just in terms of the intelligence and just meeting the person, his, you know, competitive feel during the conversations. You could feel that with Cam. So we had a pretty good idea, I would say, just as the player at the combine, and then we had to get through the whole process and just get to know him better. And we went through that process.
You saw him in a couple different places, as you mentioned. You saw him obviously at the Combine, but also at Pro Days and at private workouts and different things. As the conversations were going on specifically, was there a moment that you realized this guy's a Tennessee Titan? Was there a quality or a conversation that you had that made you say, this guy's one of us?
Yeah, it was my first conversation with him that I had at the Combine. But then I wanted to go through and watch the pro day and the private workout. And, there's some things during the private workout that we could do differently with our coaches. And, he responded well to everything that Brian, kind of threw at him. And, I would say really after that private workout, I said, yeah, this is the guy we're taking.
Mike, this is Coach Mack. Congratulations. Look, I've been in a lot of draft rooms, and I know the preparation that goes into it, and especially the preparation that you guys have done for the number one pick in the draft. Just talk to us just a minute. And they've asked me here before the pick was in, what are you feeling right now? And I said there's anticipation, but then once the pick is made, it's not only exhilaration, it's relief. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Coach. Yeah, it's a long process that you go through. When you're trying to figure out not only the player and then also the person. And then, once you figure out who you want to take, now it's a unique spot because we have the number one pick, so we knew who we were taking. So there was a bit of I guess, just, a little bit of relief after the pick was made that, Cam's a Titan here. And, it's tough to describe, as you know, Coach, when you're taking a player you're really convicted on, especially, someone at the top, especially the number one pick. The levels of excitement, not only for me, but, the entire organization.
Mike, when you look at how you take a quarterback number one overall, and I've been told before in my playing career, when you got the guy, like he becomes the most important piece in that building, man. How will you guys manage a rookie in this position being number one overall here in Nashville, as busy and chaotic it can get, with how you approach, how much you give him, and just his style of living life here in Nashville as a quarterback too?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of our job, really, is to support him and give him the best environment that he can succeed in. That goes from the coaches to the support staff. So that's a big part of it, and especially with a rookie quarterback. I've gone through that too as well with Patrick, and just, how they handle life as a pro is a big part of it. So, that's part of our job too, is to manage that situation. But we have full confidence that Cam is, very capable of doing all that.
Mike Borgonzi, you have the first pick behind you, but there's still a long draft in front of you. What are you doing tonight to reset, regroup, and get ready for the next rounds?
Yeah, so when the round ends, usually we'll get together, kind of just assess the board and see what's left on the board, and then just have a strategy, at the pick at 35 of guys that we like. That's really it. We'll spend some time here when the draft is over, just discussing those options, and then we'll get together again. Probably early afternoon tomorrow, just to shore up the plan. But it's a lot of preparation. As the boards kind of reset a little bit when players come off the board.
Mike, when you also look at the situation of having Cam in-house now, man, you guys somewhat have made steps to kind of facilitate maturity around him and help, too. And a couple of those guys, Kevin Zeitler being one of them, I think Lloyd Cushenberry is one of those savvy veterans, man. You brought in Dan Moore. What's the conversation you have with those guys, specifically the offensive linemen, man, and their role on how they help facilitate success around him, even as he walks into the building?
Yeah, well, I think that's the first thing, we wanted to do is protect the young quarterback. I think that's why we made an emphasis to try to rebuild the offensive line here. And just the leadership, that they can provide for them, especially, guys like Dan and Kevin who've been in the league for so long. And really that entire room is so important, for that to happen with a rookie quarterback. And that's part of building the culture here too. When you have a rookie quarterback, just to have some of the veterans around him to help him out. And that's part of building a championship culture.
Mike Borgonzi, General Manager of the Titans, congratulations. Know you got work to do. Thanks for spending the time with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Thank you.
All right. He's got to go back to work, but he's got his man First off the board, Cam Ward, quarterback of Miami. He is the next quarterback of the Tennessee Titans that we'll see in here pretty soon. We will have more continuing coverage of the 2025 NFL Draft presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. More coverage on the way in just a few.
This is how the
Austin seconds for station identification. The 2025 NFL Draft happens here. This is Titans Radio. We welcome you back to Nissan Stadium, home of the NFL Draft Party 2025 style, as the Titans have their new man, Cam Ward, quarterback, Miami. As we welcome you back to our coverage, Rhett Bryan, Amy Wells, Coach Dave McGinnis, Ramon Foster, and we welcome back in the new voice of the franchise, Taylor Zarzour, who has spent a little time with Cam Ward, just like we did. What was the reaction like down at the party on the field? First of all, it's loaded with Titans fans.
It was a Titans win.
Yeah.
Down on the field in Nissan Stadium. I mean, to get a guy that is a game changer like he is, I mean, the fans were going crazy, and they had no idea that he was about to be interviewed on the big screen. So to see him there live, I think was really cool. And the field is packed down there, guys. I mean, there's a lot of enthusiasm down there tonight, but you guys just talked to him. He's got it. This guy is a born leader. This is a guy that is not afraid to go win something, go win over everybody, get incarnate word, do the same thing at Washington State, become arguably the best player in college football in 1 year at the University of Miami. What he's about to enter into is quite the challenge in the National Football League, but he won't be afraid of it.
You know what's interesting is when you read about him, then there have been lots and lots of articles written about Cam Ward. The thing that sticks out and that everybody notices and calls attention to is his leadership.
Yeah.
Not only the way that he commands a room, but the way that other guys almost instantly respect him. You have to hope that that's going to translate into this locker room as well.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what you want, Amy. If you're going to make him the #1 pick in the draft, you're expecting that he has that. And Coach, you've interviewed thousands and thousands of these guys through the years. You're looking at their skill on the field, but you're looking at their ability to lead a group and make sure that they're prepared to lead a group just as much as you're looking at their skill, right?
Yeah, Taylor, and both of those things have to coincide, especially when you're picking number one and you're picking a quarterback. That's extremely important. And if you don't even know who he is, you can just follow his journey. And as we say in West Texas, he's got a lot of water in his bucket because he has gone from West Columbia, Missouri, which is in the south of Texas, way down there, as a zero-star recruit, basically had to beg to get into some place, was found in a workout, and all of a sudden he has taken the challenge of every step that he's been put on in his path, so there's something to him. And then when you start to vet these guys and you intrinsically dig into who they are as people, and there's a lot of touch points you have to hit on these kind of guys, there comes an inflection point where you say, he's got it. And we just heard Mike Borgonzi he told Amy, that inflection point came for me when we sat down with him at the Combine. That, and as a coach in this league, when you reach those touch points, all of a sudden, and everything clicks, that's when you start to say, now we're going to be committed.
Taylor, when you look at Cam Ward and what you said about him a second ago, you mentioned you worked the Masters. You've seen those guys. That's a failure sport, too. I'm sure you're very familiar with baseball, and just watching guys on Saturdays in the SEC, you've seen the guys that have it, right?
Yeah.
You know the game records. You know the game changers. You sense that with him and just talking to him and watching him, too, because you can't fake that.
No. You can't, and it's a great point you make. It doesn't matter. It transcends sport.
Right.
If you have that, if you aren't vulnerable in a moment where all the lights are shining on you, whether you have to make a putt to win the Masters or you're at home plate and you have to deliver, if you're a pitcher and you have to throw a strike, if you're a quarterback and you have to lead a team and be successful and be effective and move the chains, you had that guy, Ben Roethlisberger. You had that guy. He was it. He was your leader. The Titans had that in Steve McNair, and to a degree with Ryan Tannehill, but certainly had it with McNair, and you saw it growing up here. You saw it, and then you lived it with Roethlisberger. You've seen a lot of that.
It changes a lot.
Yeah,
it does. It changes a lot, man, and it's fascinating that he had to go the long route to get to this point. And what I say about guys like that, your undrafteds that become Hall of Famers, right? And guys that go into those bigger roles from nothing. Those dudes never let go of that. I'm sure there's somewhere a picture of him with 0-star in his room or in his wallet that acknowledges the pathway he's taken to get to this point, number one overall.
Brett Bryan has not been to sleep in 3 months as he's prepared for the draft and all the notes he's taken. Somewhere in here, Rhett, I hope you wrote down about this guy and the kind of person he is that you saw in Mobile, Alabama, my hometown, by the way, a couple of months ago.
Well, the thing about Cameron Ward is you see you read about the family unit that he's from. So his dad, Calvin, was a football player. His mother, Patrice, basketball coach for a long time. His older sister is the head basketball coach at his high school. Took over for his mom in that role because she was the coach there for like 25 years. She's a special ed teacher, and got another sister that was a shot putter, ran track. I think he did some shot putting himself, and everything I've read and seen, man, it's not their family board game night at the Ward household when you're playing Monopoly. It's for keeps, and they're competitive. But bless their hearts, Calvin and Patrice Ward went to every single one of their sons' ball games. And you know this as good as anybody. Going to Incarnate Word is one, but going to Pullman, Washington, that's a little bit of a trek, and because you can't just fly directly in there. It's like going to the draft in Green Bay. You got to go to Milwaukee and drive.
Yeah. Miss Amy, where are we going to sit the Ward family is what I want to know, because they're coming with us to every game.
I know, right? We're going to have to find a place for them on the plane. We're going to have to find some place for them to sit, because we know that they are going to be coming with. But what an awesome thing. Ramon, we talked earlier about how this isn't just for the player. This isn't just for Cam Ward. This is for his family. This is such a moment. And for them to be an athletic family anyway, to be ones who aspire to greatness, who aspire to that competition. And I think it really shows who he is as a person, and it influences him as a player, which I think is really special.
He was raised right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's what you're saying. He's grounded, And look, this is a huge night for him. And I don't mean this as a criticism of Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is going to be the most talked about thing nationally or globally because of what he wore, and the Jacksonville Jaguars traded up to get him. And he can be a cornerback, wide receiver, the next version of Deion Sanders. Cam Ward doesn't need to win this night. Cam Ward wants to win many nights moving forward. He didn't need to wear the flashy suit tonight. He was going to be the number one pick in the draft, and he was going to be excited about it. But you can also see a level-headedness about him that I think is going to serve this franchise and this team really well.
Are you saying khaki suit equals chill?
I'm just saying.
Like khaki equals cool?
That's what I was wondering.
His walk-up song.
I resemble those remarks, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I love a good comfortable suit, man.
The thing about it is, when you watch his demeanor, you got to understand that it was not only work on his part, but it was work and sacrifice on his family's part.
That's right.
They worked and they sacrificed, and so this is a moment for them that is big, but they don't see this as the end result. This is not the end result for them, and you can just tell just the way that he conducts himself. It's, as a coach, when you're looking at these guys and you're sitting and talking to them like we're talking with each other, you want to see if you can discern whether this next step is too big for them. Because this is a big stage. This is a huge stage, and that's what you've got to find out. But when you watch his demeanor and you watch the way he conducted himself, it makes you feel good.
Ramon, you never know for sure, but you look at what Mike and Chad and Brian Callahan and the rest of this team decided to do with this guy. They had so much time to learn everything that Coach Mack is just talking about with this guy. They had to be sure that this guy was going to be a generational player and be the face of the franchise for years to come. And you have to have a lot of confidence knowing how much time they had to recognize that.
You do, and from our understanding, if we listen to social media, they didn't even entertain it. You know, so that says a lot about Cameron Ward. That says a lot about how they feel they want this franchise to go in that direction with him, too. And what's super unique about it is there's a lot of pressure in it, but they feel like they have the guy to handle that. A lot of people take quarterbacks, because I need it, or, hey, he's the best one at it, and he don't fit what you're trying to do. We've seen other franchises, not to name them like that, but a Trey Lance, a New York Giants with Zach Wilson. Like, you have to be able to have guys that understand what it takes to be him. You know, and that's what I feel like he is as a player more than anything. I almost feel bad I didn't get an opportunity to ask about his parents. When we had him on here, I feel bad. Now I'm like, Mr. Ward, I'm sorry. I want to say that to his dad, because if you hear everybody talk about him and how he's regarded and the respect factor, you said this a second ago, we have this thing in the South, raised right. You know what I'm saying? Like, you go in somebody's house, you wipe your feet, you don't sit on their couch until they let you, right? Like, that feels like him. And when you're taking on the number one pick to this team, you know this also. The team probably isn't as good as you want it to be. And you got to have a guy that's mentally, more than anything, prepared to handle those challenges.
All right, here's what we're going to do. I want you to stay here with me, Taylor Zarzour, and with all our Titans radio crew, because when we come back, we're going to talk to a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback from the University of Miami.
My man.
Who has some perspective he'd like to share as you listen to Titans Radio's coverage of the 2025 NFL Draft. It's presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this.
When your team is on
2025 NFL Draft presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. If you're just joining us and you missed it, and you must have been under a rock, because with the first overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Titans selected Cameron Ward, quarterback, University of Miami. And I never thought I'd say this, but it takes a hurricane to know a hurricane as we welcome into the coverage 1992 Heisman Trophy winner, two-time national champion. Yes, he played at the U. Gino Torretta, welcome to Titans Radio, and say hello to your old friend here, Taylor Zarzour.
Hey, what's up, G?
Oh, what's going on? I got a scene set for you. I'm at the Heisman Spring Summit, and Earl Campbell just scootered by and gave me a fist bump. So from a former #1 pick of the Houston Oilers / Tennessee Titans. But good to be joining you guys. Always good to be with my man TZ.
Well, I'll say this: I love the pick. I love the pick of Cameron Ward, but he'll always be my second favorite Miami Hurricane quarterback because my favorite is on the line with us right now. G, you're a tough critic. I forced your hand to go down to the field and watch these guys. You called me in practice last year and you said, man, this guy is the real deal that's going to be our quarterback in 2024. What did you see in this guy that you believed in so quickly?
Well, I think the first time I saw it, I think I'm a fairly decent evaluator of a quarterback being able to throw the ball, even though I used to dislike you dragging me to the field to watch guys throw. I just, his accuracy, his velocity of the ball, the ball, he throws a spinner. It's a perfectly tight spiral. And the first thing I thought is, who the hell evaluated him for the NFL of being a second or third round pick? They either haven't watched this kid or they're going to be dead wrong. And basically they were dead wrong. I mean, the kid he can play. He obviously had the greatest season of any quarterback in the University of Miami history last season. He's a leader. I think you don't notice, I guess, his confidence because, when you go out there and watch him, and he is John with the defenders, but it's maybe a little bit under his breath. But he's a guy that they got behind him quick and has all the physical capabilities in the world to lead a team.
Now, it's one thing to have physical capabilities. It's another thing to have the mental speed and the ability and the processing to live up to those physical characteristics. As a guy who's played the position before, you know all the things that have to happen in someone's brain for them to be a successful quarterback. What sets Cam Ward apart?
Well, he's been successful in 3 different systems. I think that pretty much settles it. I mean, and like you said, it takes time to become efficient in any system, and he's done it in 3 different systems in college to the highest level. And I think that that's what he'll do there. I'm sure he's going to be in Nashville as quick as possible, diving into the playbook and getting on the same page with his offensive coordinator and his wideouts and everything like that for scheme. But he's already shown he can process in different schemes and systems. Listen, he's been nothing but impressive since I've seen him at Miami. He's a great kid, comes from a great family. His mom's coached him basically his whole life, and it's awful proud of him tonight.
Gino, first of all, thank you for coming on with us. The thing that's important to me, we were at dinner the other night with Taylor, and, we were talking about if this were to come to pass. He said, I've got the toughest critic of quarterbacks ever that I think that we can get to come on Titans Radio and talk about this pick. And just, having been in the league as long as I have, that makes a difference when you've got somebody of your stature that's able to vouch for this guy, but is able to vouch for him on a daily basis. That's what's important. You're not just talking about a flash in the pan look at it. What made you settle in on this guy? Because as Taylor said, you're hard on quarterbacks, especially you quarterbacks.
Well, you're giving him the keys to the kingdom. Heck, you put a lot of pressure on a quarterback when you get drafted, obviously first or even in the first round, and you're gonna be the face of the franchise. You've got to be the leader. of the franchise. You not only have to be the leader of the offense, you got to be the leader of the whole team and the whole program. I mean, basically, he's the face of the city right now, and I think that there's a lot of pressure on being a Miami quarterback. I think he's handled it tremendously. I mean, listen, our defense wasn't great this last season, and it seemed like he did whatever he could and almost, and got us 10 wins. And I think that, just the pressure he's under, because there was a lot of hype when he got down here, but he never shied away from it. He worked extra hard. And like I said, he's been great with his teammates. You can't find a teammate that'll say anything bad about him. And I would be really excited as a Tennessee Titan fan to, just look at him being your leader for years to come.
When it comes down to, I guess, the way he extended from Incarnate Word to Washington State, and I mean, we're talking about Miami, right? Being able to be a young 20-year-old in the city of Miami. Do you think that was also a part of his delivery and how he became as good as he is to be the #1 overall pick too? Because to have a Hall of Famer and Michael Irvin on the sideline, bending knee, excited to watch him play ball, man. I mean, a lot of pressure comes with that too, seeing those legendary guys that you guys have down there. How was he able to hold his poise, and how were you able to see him hold his poise amongst those greats?
I think you got to have your own self-confidence. I mean, like you said, to see guys that, when Edgar and James and, Sapp, myself and Irvin and all these guys, and we're going out and watching practice. And, he never, kowtowed to any of us. I mean, he was about going out and take care of his own business. And, I think that's impressive. And I think that how he's developed. Listen, I don't run the wing tee, nor do I probably couldn't decipher it as an analyst on what the wing tee is. But I think that's why he was a 0-star recruit coming out of high school. So he obviously learned how to play in a passing offense. And, like I said, I didn't need many throws to realize there's been, I would just say this, there's been a couple people that I've seen throw a ball 4 or 5 balls, and I'm like, wow, this is the real deal. And one of the other ones is Matt Stafford. So I'm just, he's got a different arm. He's got a different arm talent, and he seems to have the mental makeup to lead a program.
If you're just joining us, we are joined now by 1992 Heisman Trophy winner, quarterback from the U, Gino Torretta, to talk about Cam Ward, also from the U. Gino, the stories that I hear about his leadership, and you mentioned leadership a moment ago, and obviously that's a trait in him to have success at 3 different programs through the transfer portal. What's a story that you've heard about him? Because I've heard a few myself.
Well, I would go out and watch practice, and like I said, you can't tell he's talking, but he's talking, the entire practice. And that I thought was pretty impressive. That he just went out there, went about his business, and he would kind of under his breath talk, to the defenders and things like that. And I think that, like I said, there was a lot of pressure on him. I mean, a guy threw for 4,000 yards and he almost threw for more touchdowns last season than I threw in 5 years of college.
Wow.
And Miami needed that to win 10 games. So I think that, there was a lot of pressure on him to perform every week. He never seemed to shy away from it. He was always prepared. It didn't matter if he had to make a comeback in the 4th quarter or if he was down early. He always seemed to do it and never got flustered. Like quarterbacks, you want them to stay even keel. And I think when you watch him play, that's how he plays even keel. And I think that, besides the physical, that mental makeup will take him a long way.
By the way, Gino's touchdown to interception ratio was outstanding, and I want to make this clear. He did not run the wing tee at the University of Miami. One thing that I want you to just make sure every Titan fan knows, when you draft a guy this young to be the face of the franchise, you've seen a number of quarterbacks when the first read is an open G, they fall apart. Yep. This guy excels when the first read isn't there. Like he goes through read 2 and read 3, he can understand immediately what kind of coverage it is in the secondary, and he immediately adjusts. How much of an added bonus is that for the Titans that they're getting a guy that's advanced in that way?
Well, you're right. He can move on in his progression, and not only that, he has the arm talent to be able to go sidearm to three-quarter to over the top, however he needs to get rid of the ball. I mean, heck, I think he threw a couple of chest passes to his tight ends in traffic, in the middle of plays. You're just like, how did he know his outlet was there? But, yeah, just that mental makeup is tremendous. But, like you said, I mean, when you're drafting a quarterback this high, let's be honest, when you're drafting first, it's not like you're one player away from the Super Bowl. So, he's going to need 10 other guys around him on offense to do their job for him to do his well. And I think, though, that he will, be everything as advertised when he gets there. And I think that it's just up to the Titans to putting together some talent around him. And the quarterback relies on those 10 other guys to do their job so he can look good doing his.
When you speak about him and that side of him, surrounding him with guys, one of the things that we heard, one of the stories we heard was when he got to Miami, first 48 hours, he's going at guys, letting guys know, hey, this is how I want it, this is what we're going to look like. How important is that for a guy like him to be able to, I don't want to say, kind of put guys out a little bit, but raise the standard? Because not that Miami needed it, but you said there was a lot of expectation with Cameron Ward, and that's the same here in Nashville. And you might get into somebody's face from time to time. How important is that for him to hold on to that, considering the situation he's coming in here in Nashville?
Well, you want to raise the bar, right? Yeah. I mean, you want to be the best you possibly can be, and your quarterback, his bar is going to be set awfully high for his teammates. And I think that, when he came to Miami, he wanted to get in the playoff, and he thought, well, hey, we have enough talent. I know I'm good enough to lead this team to the playoff. I just want you guys to, do your job and have the confidence and work as hard as I'm going to work. And I think that, the best leaders do it themselves. They walk the walk. And I think that's what Cam did in his season with Miami, and absolutely had a tremendous year. And I can't sing the praises of the kid enough, because he's as even keel as a kid. He's confident, borderline cocky, but you want that, and he has the physical skills to be successful, and that's physical, mental. He has all those skills to be successful.
All right, Gino Torretta, one last one, and then we're going to let you go. We're so thankful that you called in and told us all these great things about Cameron Ward. But music to a quarterback's ears is what Cameron Ward has heard through this process in hearing Brian Callahan, the head coach, an offensive mind, say that I will conform offense and make it work towards the strengths and skill sets of the quarterback instead of the opposite way around. That's got to be music to a quarterback's ears, right?
What's music is what's our best 11 on offense do, and that's what we're going to run. And that's what every quarterback wants to hear, whether that's the wing tee, apparently, or a one back or a no back, and we got 4 or 5 wideouts. I think it's put our best 11 on the field, and let's go play. And I think whatever scheme that is for the personnel that Tennessee's going to have in minicamp and next fall, Cam Ward can be successful in that.
Hey, Rhett, can we send a Heisman Trophy winning University of Miami quarterback some Titans gear now that
Heck
Miami
yes, we
has
can.
a quarterback playing for the Titans?
Amy Wells says yes.
Heck yes, we can.
Can I send
care
That
package?
sounds good. All the Nissan crews down here for this Heisman weekend, so they're all fired up taking Cam Ward.
There you go. Hey, Gino Torretta, thank you so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate that very much.
All right, keep my boy TZ in good form.
We're going to take care of him, I promise.
Love you, G. Thank you.
See you guys.
That's Heisman Trophy winner Gino Torretta from the University of Miami, talking about another University of Miami quarterback, Cameron Ward of the Tennessee Titans. More of Titans Radio's 2025 NFL Draft coverage continues, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans.
In the heart of every community, caring comes naturally. At Farm Bureau Health Plans,
Plans. In the game of health coverage, Farm Bureau Health Plans is the MVP. Tennesseans have relied on their unmatched rates, coverage, and service for nearly 80 years. Let's get you up to speed on what has happened in the NFL draft in the last few picks and get some analysis here from Coach Dave McGinnis, from Ramon Foster, and Taylor Zarzour if he'd like. All right, so we started with Cam Ward at Miami at number 1. The Cleveland Browns had a trade with Jacksonville, took Travis Hunter, Colorado. Then the Giants took pass rusher Abdul Carter from Penn State. Will Campbell, the tackle from LSU, will protect Drake May in New England. And then the Cleveland Browns, who traded down to 5, took Mason Graham, defensive tackle, Michigan. Ashton Genty, the first running back off the board from Boise State, fills a much-needed void at running back for the Las Vegas Raiders. Then it gets interesting here because the New York Jets are probably as happy as anybody, y'all, because they needed a right tackle, and Armand Membu from Missouri fits that bill. 30 straight starts from that big guy. And Ramon Foster, that is exactly what the doctor ordered for the big gangrene.
100%, man. Listen to me. 6'6", over 330 pounds,
Yep.
man. Run a 4.9. Okay, like, Amy, you remember we talked earlier about, like, stuff you need to play left tackle?
Yeah.
Like, a 4.9 is one of those things right there.
That'll do it. That'll work.
And this is your school. I mean, I feel like we need to go to the expert on this one, man.
Well, she paid all that NIL money to him, so it's working out great.
But no, seriously, man, he plays powerful. He can pull. He's good in space. He's one of those guys where you won't necessarily need help with him at left tackle. And again, as many issues as they have in New York, he's one of those guys that can help sell it. They tried it with Mekhi Becton. This just seems to be one of those guys, man, albeit you hadn't as of late looked at Missouri as like, hey, yes, this is one of those schools. But I'll tell you this, though, Amy, it's an SEC school. He stood out amongst all the other players in the entire nation at his position, and he's one of those guys that's a day one starter to me. I say this, that was one of the best picks they could have had right there, and he is one of those guys that we should be calling his name for a Pro Bowl type of selection.
When you're putting an offensive line together, the one thing that you're doing when you're evaluating, not only you don't do it by position, the first thing you look at, do these guys have feet?
Yeah.
And if you can find guys that have tackle feet, that then for some reason or another they have to move into guard, then you're way ahead of the game.
Yes.
This guy's as athletic as there was.
It is.
When you watch these guys work out as a group, an extremely, extremely high-level athlete. So I agree with everything you just said.
I'm very proud to be the official voice of the Tennessee Titans. I was the unofficial television voice of the Missouri Tigers last year.
He was. Can't confirm.
5 of those games.
Lots of trips.
Including in this stadium to finish the season when they won the Music City Bowl. They protected Brady Cook, the quarterback. And the last couple of years, Missouri has run the football like crazy.
Yes.
With guys that aren't next-level running backs, that are good college running backs, but that shows you just how good they were up front.
Well, and not only that, Taylor, but Armand Membu, the only question mark on him, and I felt bad for him because the night before the Senior Bowl in Mobile, he got deathly ill. He had to be on IV, very, very violently ill, had to leave. They wanted to see him against bigs on those practices on Tuesday and Wednesday to see him line up at left tackle because they didn't need a left tackle at Mizzou, right?
Right.
That's the only thing he hasn't done. But Coach Dave McGinnis, I think the guy can play left if he needed to.
Well, he's got the physical capability.
Right.
It's like he was built in a lab.
I mean, and again, I'm sitting next to a dude that did it for double-digit years in the league. But that left to right, it's a deal for a little while because of dominant hand and backside hand. But athletically, you're right, Rhett. Athletically, you feel good about this pick.
All right, so at the 8th overall pick, and I want to bring Taylor Zarzour in on this because he's done some Panthers broadcasts in the preseason, and the Panthers, they stuck at pick number 8 overall, and they helped out their young quarterback, Bryce Young, by drafting Teteroa McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona. They took Xavier Legette last year and had a decent rookie season. The ups and downs in Dave Canales' rookie season as head coach, I mean, Bryce Young benched at one point and then really played well when he came back. Now he has a guy with a massive catch radius to help him out.
That has been the weakness of the Panthers the last couple of years. And look, Bryce Young had a really difficult first year, in part because his first read wasn't open and it was always open at Alabama. And it was never open.
That'll do it every time.
With the Carolina Panthers. But the other thing is the other part of it's not on Bryce. The receivers got no separation 2 seasons ago. It got a little bit better last year, but to your point, Rhett, this will make a big difference for the Carolina Panthers. In the other South, over there in the NFC, watch out for the Panthers in 2025. This is a team that's been at the bottom of that division for a while, but I feel like that's a division that's up for grabs in 2025. And given the way, like you just said, the way that Bryce Young and the Panthers finished the season, now that he has more weapons to throw the football to, I wouldn't be surprised if they're a factor at the end of the year next year.
So at the 9th overall pick, the New Orleans Saints became a point of interest and intrigue after last week's reports came out that Derek Carr, the starting quarterback, apparently has an issue with his shoulder.
His throwing shoulder.
His throwing shoulder. That's exactly right, Amy. Thanks for the correction, because that's important. But we wondered if this might be the floor for Shedeur Sanders from Colorado. That has not been the case in this point, because they took something they needed with Ryan Bramczyk being retired recently as of last week. They take Kelvin Banks, the tackle from the University of Texas, 42 starts at left tackle, and a big dude, Ramon Foster.
And here's the thing behind him, too, man. Dominant at his position also, too, Rhett. He's going to a place logistically that's right down the street from where he's from, and he understands what the Saints are and what they need, too. Good hips. I think he moves well in space. Here's one of those things. He's also been one of those guys that's been slated, hey, he can move to guard. Here's what I will say about Kevin Banks. The only thing that you don't like about him is the way he moves, but he moves well. He just moves like he's walking like an offensive lineman more than anything. I would say Amar Mimbo is a much smoother mover, right? And so I think that's the reason people are pegging him as a guard when you look at him. But I think this is a good selection for the Saints that's got to start this rebuild since they've lost a few guys, too.
When you're watching him, Moan, and we talk about compensating differences because of the feet, he's a deadly puncher.
Yes, he is.
He's got really, really strong, massive punch. I mean, he's got heart-stopping punch when he can extend on people. So that's why, and you know this, that's why people talk about. That's why you moved to guard.
Absolutely.
That's exactly why you moved to guard in this league.
You utilize those things. And again, I think he ended up missing the Georgia game when they played against, and they missed them also at left tackle. Here's also that conversation we had earlier. Guys in college can get away with playing tackle, even if they're a little bit less than what the NFL requires, because there's such a separation of age. He can't necessarily do that. But again, I would try him at tackle, see what it looked like maybe through mini camp, and try to make a decision going into training camp after the fact.
I would be on that.
He
program.
moves like a guard, is what I say, but he plays well enough to play tackle.
Coach Mack, we had our first little snafu on the Rhett Mack board, because at pick number 10.
Well, then they clearly got to be wrong.
I think so, too. And you'll get this, too, because in your time you spent there, it's Chicago Bears at number 10 take the first tight end off the board, Colston Loveland from Michigan. We had Tyler Warren from Penn State ahead of him, but Colston Loveland is a fantastic athlete. The thing with him is he's got to get the medical clearance. He had a shoulder surgery on his right shoulder. In January, he was still sleeved up in that at the combine. It didn't test. But they're getting a whale of a tight end right there, Mac.
They get really good. Look, I spent 10 years with one of the best tight ends in the history of the Bears with Mike Ditka. So I'm just telling you, the Bears are all about that position. And you're right. The shoulder thing is the one that had us bump him down a little bit, but he's a quality player. He was in the top tier of our tight ends. And so clearly they feel like, and they've got a young quarterback also. So they're trying to find somebody that's going to be between the numbers that can help this young quarterback out.
Red, I'm not going to I am going to sort of mess up your order just for a second, because as you were saying that, Tyler Warren went to the Colts.
He did.
Isn't that crazy?
Unfortunately, the Titans will have to see him twice a year. And it should be noted, it's come out in the last few minutes, the NFL regular season schedule will drop on May 14th, so we'll find out exactly when we're in Nashville and when we're in Indianapolis.
I cannot wait for that.
So there you are. All right, now at pick number 11, the San Francisco 49ers had a mass exodus on defense, and that's what they felt like they needed to go get, and they got Mykel Williams, the edge pass rusher from Georgia, Mac.
Well, not only an edge pass rusher, you can move this guy anywhere. This guy is a very movable piece, and especially nowadays, with the way defenses are set up, because a lot of times you're playing sub defense a lot. You're playing 4 guys across the front. Even if you show 5 or 6 up front, you're rushing with 4 a whole lot so that you can have numbers in coverage. The thing about this guy, Rhett, in vetting him, they can move him around that defensive front, and he's a speed to power guy is what he is, Rhett. He's not a skim the edge guy. He's a speed to power dude.
He is, because I was going to go at looking at Dane Brugler as a beast. He has him as a 5th edge rusher. And you look at what Mac just said there. He's a guy that can play wide 3 in third down situations, or he can beat you off the edge. He's one of those types of me. At 267 or 260, wherever he is right now, look at his division that he's playing against. They run the ball heavy in the NFC West. They got to have guys like him to set the edge and also be athletes also.
So guess who else had him as the 5th pass rusher in pod number 1? The Mac Rhett board, the Mac Rhett Corporation.
Get him.
Brett, I'll just say I did a couple of Georgia games that DeMichael Williams played in, and when he was on the field and healthy, he was the best player on the field. The problem is he wasn't always on the field and healthy, and that's something to watch out for.
So one of the more predictable picks at number 12 with the Dallas Cowboys, all-pro guard Zach Martin retires, and they take one of the best guards. It was the top guard on our board, Tyler Booker from Alabama, to help out their quarterback, Dak Prescott.
This is a Dallas Cowboys move. Ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Tyron Matthew just retired as a Cowboy, man. They want to continue that lineage of being able to be a ground and pound team, and he fits that. He's a wide body guy. He was born to be a guard is the way I look at him. Long arms, moves real good, got a great foundation about him. And here's the thing about him too, Mac, you mentioned a second ago when we were talking about Kelvin. He moves people with his upper body, and his legs follow too. Got to make sure, like most offensive linemen, you're not going to be a waste man, but he doesn't have that. Playing at Alabama, it's under Nick Saban for a couple of years too. This guy's primed to be a day one starter.
Brett, Coach Mack was in the draft room for 30-plus years, and you know the feeling, Coach Mack, of when your team gets your guy. The Dallas Cowboys in the war room celebrated like they got their guy. I mean, they were acting like they won a football game tonight.
Well, how about this? Did you see Tyler Booker going to the podium?
He was sprinting.
He was skipping like he was in 3rd grade.
He was so happy.
Best shape he's going to be in a while is that combine trainer.
Let me say this. Brian Schottenheimer, this is his first shot. This is Marty Schottenheimer's son. I worked with Brian for 5 years at the Rams. An excellent football coach. But, I mean, he follows in the lineage of his dad, too, because Marty Schottenheimer, playing Marty ball, you got to have dudes that can move people up front.
Sir.
And when he was an offensive coordinator for us there at the Rams, the years that I was with him, he wanted people that could move people off the line of scrimmage because everything of his offense emanates from that.
So here's a little bit of a surprise at pick 13. The Miami Dolphins had a clear need because Teron Armstead retired a couple of weeks ago. But because Will Campbell went 4 overall to the Patriots, that tackle's off the board. Armand Mimbu, 7 to the Jets. Kelvin Banks, number 9 to the New Orleans Saints. They go defense, and they take Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle from Michigan, who went a lot higher than a lot of people might have thought. I mean, he went right in there with Mason Graham, just outside the top 10.
It's something that had him ahead of Mason Graham in a sense.
Yes.
Because I think you see a little bit more athleticism out of Kenneth Grant. He's a guy I think has a motor on top of athleticism, and that's the perfect recipe right there.
Brett, it is really surprising to the points you referenced. They took Patrick Paul, an offensive lineman last year, to ultimately replace Teron Armstead, and he is a project. He struggled when he was on the field last year. I think they're doing this because 2 years ago, Zach Sealer and Christian Wilkins were unbelievable together in the interior of that defensive line, and they didn't have anyone to complement Sealer last year, and clearly they think they have that in Kenneth Grant. Well, time will tell, but I think that's why they're doing this.
Well, he's this kind of dude, though. I mean, he really is. He's different. He's different in the fact that he's not just a block.
Right.
He's not just a block. He's got movement to him.
Well, here's the thing about that pick, too, Taylor, is it's clear we've seen what the formula is in beating quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes and like Lamar Jackson is. You got edge guys, but mash the middle of the pocket. If you can bring 4 and cage rush, as Coach Mack has taught me.
Max Crosby.
There it is.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're getting right there with a guy like Kenneth Grant. And then as you mentioned, at pick 14, the Indianapolis Colts take Tyler Warren, tight end from Penn State. And you talk about a guy that, man, he brings the violence. Dude lives off of the violence. He plays. He's not the same size and kind of guy, but he reminds me of about 20 years ago of a guy named Jeremy Shockey, who also played at the U.
Oh,
He plays
yeah.
with that kind of attitude.
Is he, you called him a tight end from Penn State? Coach Mack, is he going to be a quarterback in goal-to-go situations?
He ran a lot of Wildcat.
I mean, that's what he did at Penn State.
No, he ran a lot of Wildcat stuff. The thing about him is not only the Wildcat that you bring up, Taylor, which is, first of all, they trust him. That's number one. They trusted him. But his spatial awareness is excellent. Is excellent. So they've got a very nice pick. They will use him. They will move him around. A guy like that, what a guy like that makes you do as a defensive coordinator, if he's in the ball game with another tight end, are they going to be in 22? Are they going to be in 12? Are they going to be in 21? That kind of stuff is the matchup problems that he's going to present, and the Titans are going to face it twice a season. That's what that does.
Can I just practice one thing real quick?
Go.
Warren stoned at the goal line by Simmons. Titans take over.
There it is.
Hey, there's a little taste of what you're going to get this fall.
I like it. I like it. That was good practice.
Got to take our last break. When we come back, we'll recap what has happened tonight with Cam Ward, the #1 overall quarterback, and talk about thoughts going into night 2 for the Tennessee Titans as you listen to Titans Radio's coverage of the 2025 NFL Draft. It's presented by Farm Bureau Health Plan.
The way teams are built.
Miami.
How exciting.
It's crazy.
What a great moment for this organization, for this coaching staff, for this new personnel office that we have. I mean, I think this is just such an exciting time for this organization all the way around. A guy who's not only going to be a great leader, is a guy who's going to be able to show up for the locker room, but good gravy, the stuff he can do on the field. I feel like we've spent so much time talking about what a lovely person he is, and I think all of that is very valuable, but let's get down to the brass tacks of it all. Coach Mack, tell me why this guy is going to be a good ball player.
Well, you heard what Gino Torretta said. First of all, he can spin the football, but he spins the football from so many different launch angles. And the other thing is he's accurate. He's extremely accurate when he's spinning the ball. And the other thing is he's a competitor to the max. The thing that you watch too is he is able. You know, we talk about you got to have duck feathers. When you're a quarterback, you got to be able to shed the bad, like they shed water. Yeah. You got to be able to shed the bad plays and go on to the next one. You got to go on to the next one. You can't soak in the bad stuff and let it weigh you down. This dude just moves forward a lot. I love the pick.
It goes off your duck feathers.
Goes off your duck feathers.
All
I
right,
like that.
we're there.
To add to that point, though, too, one of the first things that Coach Callahan said was incredible poise. I'm telling you guys, it's nothing better being in a huddle with 3 minutes left, one timeout in the 2 minute, and the quarterback just looks down at the ground and says to you guys, hey, just give me a little time. We're going to go win this football game. Like, those are the types of things that you want to have inside of your locker room on your team. And it seems to me those are the things he's done in Miami and Incarnate Word and at Washington State. And you can't buy that. You can draft it. You can't buy it, but that's one of the reasons why, Amy, he is and has been successful.
Ramon Foster, I want to ask you this because you lived it your entire career with the Pittsburgh Steelers with a guy named Ben Roethlisberger who was able to extend plays with his body at great victory and at sometimes his own peril. What is this offensive line up for with a guy like Cam Ward who moves out of the pocket like that and extends plays?
When I first got my first start, my rookie year, I had a veteran tell me, this is probably what Zeitley needs to tell everybody else. When you block for him, block longer. And then when you think you've blocked long enough, continue to block. Because the play's never over. No lie, one of the best, just pieces of advice I ever got. And when you have those types of guys, man, and to that point, there are going to be some bad plays that happen. But dudes like them, man, they're wired a certain way that, look, I can live with an interception if you take us on a game-winning drive and we can go have a victory Monday. Like, those are the things that you live for. That's what makes you a better teammate and just have people believe in it and the legend that you can become. So that's what it does for you, Red, in those moments right there.
The other thing that's important is when you're on a football team, you're coaching the team, talk about a quarterback, the first people that he has to earn the ultimate respect from, and then it develops into a love for your offensive lineman.
Yes, sir.
All the great quarterbacks I've had a chance to be around in my career, they've had a bond with the offensive lineman that was different.
Mm-hmm.
It was different. And the only way you earn that from the bigs is they got to believe that you're with them from the start.
Yes, sir.
So and he's clearly done this wherever he's been, but he comes into this league, earned the respect of the bigs, and you're good.
Yes, sir.
I believe the guy is an elite level quarterback. But I also believe that the guy that is in charge of the personnel department, Chad Brinker, is elite. And I believe the general manager of the Tennessee Titans, Mike Borgonzi, is elite. And when you allow elite front office people to make all of the decisions and build the team in their eyes and not skip any steps, it works. And it works in a hurry. And what we're about to witness in the next few years is going to be really exciting. And to get to do it with this excellent team that has been broadcasting this draft tonight is going to be the thrill of a lifetime. You guys are quickly going to become family to me, and I can't wait for that.
We feel the same way, Taylor.
This is my town now, and you're going to hear that in our voices when we call a game. I just want to say this before I shut up for the rest of the night. In the words of the great Mike Keith, the Titans got better today. And we will celebrate Mike Keith for the rest of my days. I can promise you that on Titans Radio. To my knowledge, this is the first time we've ever done a Titans Radio broadcast without him.
Yep.
We will miss him, but we will celebrate him. And I can promise you, through my voice and through all of our voices, we will honor him. And that man will come back and high-five us when we go into the new facility in a couple of years, which, if I have anything to do with it, will have his name on it when we walk into it. But it is an exciting time. It feels like a kind of a reboot for the Titans. And tonight, as Mike would say, the Titans got better.
That's very well said.
Very well said.
Yeah.
In our final 4 minutes, let's talk about what's ahead. The Titans have the 35th overall pick tomorrow night, third pick to start round 2. They do not have a third-round pick currently as a result of the trade for L'Jarius Sneed a year ago. What do we think happens? I mean, obviously, there was, no trades of a first-round pick, and then we've had a couple tonight to get this thing done. Do we think it's likely that they get some trade offers, and do they do that? What do we think is sitting there for them at 35?
Yes.
Okay, I'm long-winded, Max. Sorry.
Yeah. The answer is yes, because now you reboot, you reset, and this is extremely important. That 35th pick is valuable. It's valuable for 2 reasons. First of all, there's still a lot of good players left on this board. A lot of good players. That's number one. But number 2 is it's a valuable asset. This draft is shaped like a Coke bottle. At the top, you've got just a few smaller. The middle, the belly of this draft is big. And you've got a lot of players at the belly of this draft. And so this pick is very valuable. There's a lot of thought that's going to go into that tonight and going into tomorrow, not only in this draft room here, but in the other ones that are looking to come up to get the guy they love.
Mac, the Tennessee Titans love you because they just extended their partnership with Coca-Cola as the soft drink provider of the Tennessee Titans. So they just love that analogy.
I've had some commercials in my life, so I
sure have.
I understand. I worked with Joe Green, so I understand the Coca-Cola thing.
You know how it works.
But they have 6 picks. Currently, they have 6 picks in day 3, 2 in round 4, 2 in round 5, 2 in round 6, none in 7. They can get some work done to make some hay in those areas, Mac.
Well, but to Taylor's point, back to what he said about this, the process that this front office is using, they're not going to leave any stone unturned.
Right.
They're not going to hurry through this, and so that's very important. Every pick they make, this was a massive pick tonight that we've celebrated, but every pick they make for the redo of this football team is critical right now. Critical.
Final thoughts as we wrap up coverage this evening. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. We're
Go.
speaking about the
Biggie.
tomorrow's pick, man. It goes to the question you ask yourself. Where are you going to help a Cameron Ward, right? Is
Sure.
it going to be offense, wide receiver, tight end, running back maybe? I'm not sure they're going to go that high. Is it going to be on the defensive side of things too? Because, again, I think almost immediately Cameron Ward becomes the leader offensively, but you still got a defensive leader in Jeffrey Simmons that's probably going to want some assistance too, whether it be edge, whether that be, corner, wherever the case may be, off-ball linebacker, who knows. But those 2 places is what I'm thinking right now, either wide receiver or potentially somewhere up the middle off the edge for the defense.
Those seem to be the 2 needs that probably need to be addressed, but they have so many needs throughout all 3 levels of the defense and several. I mean, they need a safety. They need another off-ball linebacker. There's a couple of – Mac's right. There's still some really good players in this thing left.
They need contributors. That's what they need. And
And that's what this is, Mac, is a starter draft. Good starters.
They need contributors really quick.
Well, this is going to be fun.
Oh, boy.
We started it off with a quarterback, but it's only going to get better in day 2 and day 3. So let's ride.
Absolutely. And we will be live tomorrow night from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park to start night 2 at 6 o'clock Central tomorrow night. We want you to join us on that. And it has been such an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to be a part of Titans history tonight as they select Cameron Ward, quarterback from Miami, as the first overall pick in Tennessee Titans history. What an amazing night for the franchise right here on Titans Radio.